great.
That was my favorite episode, I think.
The most awkward Baeclast.
That was good.
What?
I mean, all of the
Never-
Baeclast.
I don't think we've ever had an awkward Baeclast.
Nope.
Oh, never.
It's never happened.
Okay. Hey guys, Tarke here, and today we're going to be talking all about Heist, and we're joined by the lovely DatModz at last. Before we get into the Heist discussion...
Whoa, what the fuck?
Wow, dude.
Did you not send him the rules? Does he not know that he's not supposed to talk during the intro?
You're not allowed.
no.
No.
The
Wow.
script right here. There's literally
we-
a Burger King sponsored segment and it says Heist vibes. I have the entire script here. And it didn't say nothing about not saying hi when he introduced me. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna shut up.
Okay,
now.
okay. I don't know who you think you are that I introduce you and you get to speak. We have a very set rule. Basically, I say nothing of value for the first like 2 minutes. Then I put Raiz QT on the spot. He says nothing of value, and then you're allowed to speak.
And then we continued that for the next 3 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Chat gets very confused if we don't follow the traditions here.
People get very angry.
I'm legit
Gonna be
crying.
okay.
Okay, well, now that
I'm so sorry.
now he's got his little rebellious streak out. Raiz, what have you been up to?
I did the. Sorry, I'm still a little bit flustered about the whole thing, but I did the Gauntlet Race. That was pretty good. I greatly enjoyed it. I can definitely recommend it if there's events like that in the future, because I know some people couldn't get in because of the character limit, or account limit. But apparently in the future that will not be a problem for anybody. So hopefully that's going to be fun. And yeah, I played a cremation guy and I couldn't get a 6 link. And it turns out the Archmage without the 6 link is not very Archmage like. It kind of sucks.
Was
'Cause you missed
Archmage your
all.
6th link?
No. Yeah, no.
Might as
It's
well.
just because many people are confused by this, but yeah, with Archmage you scale through increased mana cost on top of like what the support gem gives you. So in my case, it was elemental focus, so it gave me like 110% more damage. So yeah, my build was a little bit too tanky to balance for that, for not having that 6 link, so that kind of hurt me. But yeah, it was still nonetheless very fun. And now I'm continuing in the Gauntlet, playing a Bull Lightning guy, hopefully. Yeah, because that's pretty cool.
DatModz, how are you doing? What have you been up to recently?
I died in the race.
Hmm.
Yeah. I had higher expectations. I died. Yeah. I think a lot of people died. Yeah.
Yup. Yeah.
Did you guys die also?
No.
No.
What's that?
I believe you, Raiz. I'm not gonna fact check you at all.
Wait, didn't you die? Didn't you die to like a disconnect or something?
Oh no, that was during the China race. Yeah, the China race I died at
Oh.
disconnect. Yeah. I was actually doing good in that one.
Hmm.
The America race was too competitive, man. There was just too many good racers.
It was tough. What did you play?
I played Blade Blast Chieftain.
Oh, Gucci did well with that, but he
Yeah.
was like the only one.
Yeah, no, I like it quite a bit. That the play style feels really cool. Blade Blast and Blade Fall.
I didn't really follow the races at all. What was like the main meta builds that people were doing for?
There was a decent amount of...
Scummancers.
What was that?
Scummancers.
Yes, a lot of Necromancer builds. Spellslingers, for the most part, with some Archmage Cremation in there. And then it was actually a fairly varied meta outside of that, though. Like the top 5 finish, I think there was 4 different Ascendancies represented in that, maybe even 5.
Live.
Like there was, there was a decent bit of variety. Like Steel was not doing real well on his Lacerate. There were tons of people playing Necro, obviously, but then there was also like a Jug. There was Champion, I think. Alk was Champion Earthshatter. I don't remember the other ones.
Yeah, sound good. Actually, quickly before we go back to the round table, on the Ascendancy talk, are we expecting Ascendancy nerfs next patch?
Sure.
How do you talk about this real quickly? What the fuck?
Just real quick,
Yeah,
real quick.
let's,
Just like a quick like 1 second discussion.
Hey Ziggy, what have you been up to?
I've also been immersing myself in the race, but in a very different manner, having my own personal race against insanity in producing coverage for the event in a new fashion. Doing the PoE Sports Report was very challenging and fun. Took myself and Brittany a lot more time than I think we both expected to make each day. I was like, I'm gonna get up at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and I'm gonna have it done by midday, and then I'm gonna do some streams. But it took like 8 hours each day to make it. So, but it was super fun though. It was really a really good race as well. If you haven't like caught some of the highlights, caught some of the clips or things like that. I happen to know of a very good video series you could watch to catch up on the race. So you could check out PoE Sports Report. But it was a really competitive race and super entertaining. Lots of different stories, lots of great rip clips. Very, very cool. I was a big fan of it.
Your one report was just like 10 minutes of rips.
Mhm.
It was very entertaining, yeah.
Yep. Pretty glorious.
I'm
So I give it
excited.
up,
Yeah. I'm really excited that format worked out so well as well, because I think it's a much better way of covering that kind of like week-long plus race. You know, like it's a lot easier to do. I mean, it wasn't easy to do. You put in those long days, but it's a lot more feasible to do than like trying to actually cast that content like we did.
I think
with
the biggest
Awakening race
thing,
and the rotating team.
like even that aside, I think the biggest thing is that's much easier to follow for people.
Yeah.
Because it's just not possible to keep up with everything that's happening as a viewer. Even if you're someone who watches a lot of Twitch normally, if you watch like 5 hours of Twitch a day while you work from home or something like that, you still wouldn't be able to keep up with the race. You'd be able to keep up with like one story from the race, usually of like one streamer and kind of their story at most. So it's a really that's an interesting challenge that PoE Racing presents, is like, how do you keep up with all of this? And in shorter term events, you can kind of do it with like, having like 4 people on screen and then commentating them and jumping back and forth a little bit. You can get a pretty decent coverage of that. But for a bigger event like this, anything that goes for longer than a few hours, really, it's very difficult to follow. So that was an interesting thing to try and tackle. Is like how that was kind of like our core thing. Is like, how do we make it so people can get a good understanding of the entire race and enjoy the whole thing? I think we did okay. I think there's still improvements to be made in like how we can cover this sort of stuff, and maybe more tools from GGG in the future. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it was a good start.
From the little I did see, I think you did really well. And I think the other thing that's really important is when you're doing the like 24/7 live thing, this is true of both the casters and the people watching, you only ever see the same people in your time zone. Like that was one thing which was really lame when because I casted a fair bit. I think I did like 2 or 3 of the casts, but I was never getting to cast people I wanted to cast because they were on a different time zone to me. So yeah. What about you, Niggy?
What about me?
Fine. What about you, Octavian? What have you been up to recently?
I actually didn't participate in the Gauntlet Race myself, so as the league has been winding down, I've been playing some other games here and there, stepping outside of Path of Exile for once. But I spent kind of just a lot of time faffing about in hardcore trade and building and rebuilding the same like 3 characters and trying to min-max them with Harvest. And I got a lot more into Harvest towards like the middle to the end of the league there than I expected to. I going into Harvest, I really expected to burn out a lot earlier than usual, and it kept me engaged a bit longer than I thought it would. At this point, I kind of have that, PoE sickness, if you want to put it that way, and I just don't really want to open the program anymore. But yeah, no, it still kept me hooked longer than I thought.
What other games were you playing?
Really
talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, DatModz, you've ruined this podcast again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right, now what else have you been playing, Octavian?
Risk of Rain 2, some Hades, and a little bit of Hearthstone Battlegrounds.
Oh.
I like that.
Those are some good roguelites. I like both those. Hades and Risk of Rain is pretty cool. It's pretty sweet.
I finally managed to beat the boss on Monsoon, and it's an accomplishment. I'm happy with myself. There are people out there doing it way better than that. But
was that before the patch
beat it
or
with?
after the patch?
That was before the patch.
Okay.
Multi.
Oh, damn.
Oh, yeah.
Thick
I thought
robot
you
boy.
teased it with like engineer or something, but that's actually pretty good. Nice.
I did my first clear with multi.
Isn't multi like
It's
the
really good.
worst right now?
There's an interesting thing you can do with multi where you put rebar on both of your weapon slots, and whenever you whenever you weapon swap, it insta reloads your rebar, so you can like shoot rebar super duper fast. So I did cheese it a little bit.
Well, with engineer, you can like put down the turrets, and when it takes away your items, the turrets still have the items, so they just insta kill the boss on the last phase. It's like it's a little more cheesy.
Yeah, that boss is crazy. I don't want to say any spoilers though. It's kind of like a little inspired by a Path of Exile boss we all know.
No, apparently they patched that. But I agree.
Wait, really?
I was watching mods fight it for the first time, and it was very entertaining. You got blown the fuck up. It was cool.
What were you fighting it on?
I was on the Archer. I like the Archer character.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I made
He's just
it
got the
through a
best
couple
kit.
phases. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Took me forever as well.
Nuggy,
Wait, how
have
many
you,
times?
have you learned what you've been up to recently? Sorry.
But I didn't know if you wanted to talk about, like, if you wanted to know about something about the race, or if you wanted to know just
Nuggy, you can
general,
talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. No, but it's like, what about you? It's like as if there is something I was supposed to know to answer. Like, not what I've been up to. But okay, I have played a lot of PoE since last, and Victorio, and I did a little bit of a race. But with all my moving to Belfast, where I am now, which is why it's
Congrats.
different. Yeah, it's been a really good move. Sis is a very good host, and so is Helena. Yeah, I wasn't really that motivated to do the race. I was like in top 50 for the most time, but yeah, I kind of killed myself to reflect in the end. It's like, oh, whoops.
Oh,
That's how I died. I was doing really well. I was ahead of a lot of people in terms of actual what's it called? Guardian
Progression?
kills. Yeah, I just been killing Guardians. They weren't any problem. I mean, I was just playing Glad with Earthquake, and it was really good. But then I killed myself to reflect, so that was stupid, and I was like, I can't play anymore. So I played Victoria instead, which is like a 10 out of 10 game.
I've purposely avoided that because I feel like I'd spend too much time in it. Because everyone I know who's played it just sink like thousands of hours into it.
You can definitely do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been very tempted to pick up. So I haven't really played PoE in like maybe even a month now. I checked out of this league really quickly. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it didn't really hold me. And I tried restarting again in SSF, like, if I would do a completely fresh restart move, that would get me back into it. But it's just, it's too vanilla outside of the crafting for me. Like, the core gameplay, I was just like,
but
you know
there's
what?
so much stuff to do in vanilla.
There is so much stuff to do in vanilla, but it was... I never like restarting too close to the end of the league, because then it's kind of like stales me a bit going into the fresh start. So I was like,
No,
you
it's
know
just
what?
that you said you weren't too happy like early on. I think you burned out early.
Yeah, so I burnt out. Okay, I played a lot for like the first maybe 3 weeks, and then I sort of tapered out a bit. And then I had that thing that I've spoken about before. I really struggle with PoE. If I take a break for more than like 3 or 4 days, I find it really hard to come back to the character I was on. It's just like it's just that point is enough to just kind of kill it the league for me. So I kind of fluffed around for a couple of weeks, and then by maybe like week 7 of the league or something, 6 of the league, I'm like, I'm done. So I've been playing a lot of roguelikes, like a lot. I've actually just been going on Steam, buying every single roguelike, setting an alarm for 90 minutes, and like spam refunding like absolute scum. I'm not buying the same game and just like resetting every run, but like I'm buying just loads of different games.
What the hell, dude? Who am I around right now? What the
Is
fuck?
rogueliking his Steam account?
I thought this was an
I didn't know anything
ethical.
about this.
I thought this was an ethical stream. What the fuck, dude?
Again, I'm not like buying Binding of Isaac and then like every run refunding buying again. But I'm basically I'm playing every single roguelike that's ever come out, and I don't make that much money on Twitch, so I can't just be one of those people like look at my amazing like 10,000 Steam library. So yeah, I've just been like trying stuff and then being like, this is kind of cool, then refunding it. I've actually been look, okay. If you guys want to give me some money, then I'll start refunding games on Steam. But anyway,
You know, you can
Here's a
just, a
question.
lot of games you get to sign up for the beta. You're a content creator. You can just message them like, "Hey, I want to review your game," and maybe they'll give you a key. I never do it, but you could potentially do it.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no,
Which did you keep, Tarke?
Say that again.
Which ones did you keep?
The main ones that I've kept. So I already had Risk of Rain 2. I've sunk something like 30 hours into Hades in the space of a week. I adore Hades. Such an amazing game. I think that's probably my favorite roguelike so far. Curse of the Dead Gods is really fun. That's still in very early alpha.
Good.
Really curious to see how that game develops. I have Skull the Something, which is in very early alpha. That looks really good. Enter the Gungeon is on my list to play. I haven't got around to that yet. And Catacomb Kids looks really cool. And Crypt of the Necrodancer is on my list. But yeah, so basically what I've been doing is just like a fun kind of project, because I'm not really like playing much, is I've been like brainstorming how I'd go about making my own roguelike. So I've basically just been like playing everything, seeing how other people are doing stuff, making notes, and I've just been like building this doc of like plans, which has been kind of a fun activity just to kind of like keep me kind of busy. I was actually really disappointed by Rogue Legacy because I'd never played it before, and it's one of those games that people always like say this is so cool. And yeah, I just didn't. I think the issue I have is I don't really like platforming in games. So that kind of cuts a lot of roguelikes off the list already.
It takes a lot of hand and eye coordination.
It's not so much that, but it's kind of like if I want to play a platformer, I want to play just like a dedicated platformer. And I feel like a lot of games have kind of scuffed platforming. So unless your controls are like really perfect, I'd rather you just didn't have it in the game at all. Because then I'll just play Super Meat Boy or Mario or something instead. But yeah. Before we get into the Heist discussion, didn't you want to talk about BK's upcoming race, Octavian?
Yes. So for anyone who's not aware, it's going to be this Saturday, and Brunelli is putting together a community event that's going to be organized through Soft Giving, which has a organization that has a bunch of contacts with various charities and sort of acts like a middleman between like content creators and charities. And it's going to be one of the, a new format that she's testing out. For those of you who don't know, Brittany does a lot of the organizational stuff for community races behind the scenes. She does very good work. And the format she wants to test out is something she's calling a relay race, where basically you have a team of 4 players. Each of them does whatever the content of the race is. It's going to be pretty short form individually. So for this, it's a Dominus kill. And then the average time of the team is the one that goes up against all the other teams. And this allows like the players in the team to have a little more flexibility as to when they actually do their portion of the race, as like, you know, they can tag in at any time when they have the ability to do so. So it's ideally meant to be like a little more flexible for the players, so that, you know, since PoE has such a broad player base and there's people playing from like the middle of Europe and down in Australia and over here in North America and stuff, it should make it a little more flexible and easier for the players. This one is also open to the public though. So if you and your group of friends or guildmates wants to join, the registration is still open. You can find links to it through Brittany's Discord, through the PoE Racing Discord. There was a post on the Reddit. There's a forum post. There's a bunch of different resources out there.
And it's for charity too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, for a good cause.
So, to actually talk about Heist, before we talk about everything else, I'm curious what everyone's initial impressions are just from watching the trailer. So not from reading everything, not from watching the Q&A, just from the trailer. What was your initial reaction, DatModz?
What was my reaction?
Yeah.
I was like, where's the density? That's the first thing, right? So when we're watching the initial trailer, I'm like, where's the density? And then my brain initially went to Reddit. Like, the damn Zoomers on Reddit, they're just going to complain that there's not enough mobs. But I personally like the slower playstyle in Path of Exile. When they slow you down, it's more thought-provoking, pre-planned stuff. As long as the rewards are good, you know? If you're getting big stacks of loot, that makes me happy in the game. And, yeah, my initial impressions were positive, yeah.
What about you, Nugiyen?
I was excited. I thought the narrative looked cool. I thought, well, so it's like Is it? You think is this a lab or is it betrayal or what is it?
Delve, but
At the
stealing.
moment yeah, I guess.
It's delve.
Then when you okay. So when you saw, but you're asking about my initial reactions here.
But you asked me a question. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm telling you what my question to myself about the thing was.
Fighting.
Okay, so I thought to myself, okay, where are the monsters, right? And then I saw the action, and it looked a lot like whenever you do the end encounter to a betrayal, which is always smack full of monsters. So I'm sure there's plenty there, and it's just I don't know. It looked really good. It looked that there was plenty of action, plenty of everything. Just I don't know, good combat, good skills, good everything. It's great.
What about you, Octavian?
I think they've done a really good job of something that's a little bit difficult in an ARPG, which is differentiating the feel of the content. At least from the footage that we've seen, like it doesn't. A thing that I've heard about Delve is that it's just a bunch of old Elrian missions on a line, you know, that sort of thing. Like making monsters actually feel different to fight can be fairly difficult. It's hard to get away from just, especially when most of the builds in the game just one-shot everything on the screen. And since you might actually want to avoid fighting some of the mobs in here, and since the pace of it is very different going in as opposed to coming out, I feel like it's going to feel rather different to do a heist as compared to doing, you know, a delve or doing a breach or doing any other mechanic that has lots of monsters in X shape, line, circle, square, whatever.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Right?
Oh,
That makes sense.
you're throwing it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, didn't say anything.
Surprise.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I didn't hear it.
That's all
I was positively surprised. I mean, I didn't have like a big expectation at all. With Harvest, I really wanted something like Harvest, and they really over delivered in a lot of ways. And with this league, I wasn't really expecting anything. And I think they're over delivering again. I'm a little bit surprised about the way they're marketing this league because they're not really saying any big words. Like there's no big boom reward thing. There's like the alternate stuff that's a little bit different. Usually they have something where they go, this is the thing. If you're this sort of player, you want to play this. Now there's really none of that. They have apparently boss fights or some sort of endgame encounters that aren't really talked about either. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, it'll happen. You'll figure it out. There's a lot of story driven stuff apparently that's also not like immediately exposed at all outside of us knowing that there's a bunch of different NPCs. So despite the fact that they're not really selling it to me, I still really like the idea. And I'm really looking forward to it. I really enjoyed Betrayal in particular. I do think that it's like a little bit of Delve, a little bit of Betrayal, a little bit of Lab in there mixed too, maybe with the more stealthy approach, how you kind of have to think your way through certain encounters or traps, right? So yeah, it should be pretty cool.
I bet the end boss is gonna be George Clooney.
I heard that before. That might be a possibility. I wouldn't really mind it.
Yeah,
What would they
that
call
would be
it?
that'd be an expensive likeness to pay for.
I mean, they did say that 90% of their budget or so goes towards voice acting whenever stuff like this happens, right? So,
Oh wow, really?
yeah, it's not 90%,
that-
but they did say that voice acting in general costs a big chunk of
Yeah, it's expensive.
when they do these big releases.
Just make up a statistic?
No, they said that.
Like across game dev in general, it's really expensive. The Star Wars MMO sunk a huge portion of their player base into voice acting. It's just money. But what about you, Ziggy?
So I didn't see the trailer as my first impressions. Rather, it was a PowerPoint with Chris Wilson commentating. So pretty different experience, I think, to the introduction of. Like I think I understood a bit more about like how it works than you get from the trailer, at least as a first impression, because it was more like a, you know, here's what the league is the intention of it, here's how it's supposed to play out, sort of stuff. Looked super like goofy and fun. So that was kind of my first impression. Then my second impression was like people are going to be worried about the stealth. So that was like immediately the thing that I was like asking about. I was like, how important is the stealth? So I tried to communicate that at least in the Q&A. Kind of like ask about the stealth and stuff like that if people were worried about it. But yeah, it looks pretty goofy and fun. I think what Raiz touched on, where they're like not saying much, is I know Chris has really been wanting to kind of tell us less, if possible. So they haven't told us any story stuff. Like I realized, hey, I don't even know who we're stealing from. Like that seems kind of like an important thing. Like usually they communicate a lot more of the plot of this, so like the characters and the factions and things like that. There's barely any of that this time around, as well as showing less of the things like bosses and stuff like that. Like there's a very brief snippet clip of a giant robot chasing you, burning lasers behind you, and I was like, okay, that looks pretty cool. But yeah, we don't know much in a way, so it's a risk. I agree, it's a gamble because it can come across that way as like, oh, does anything happen in this? Like, is there much fighting? Because you don't get to see much of it if they keep some of that secret. But on the other hand, it could be really fun to see a lot of this stuff for the first time when the actual league releases as well. So.
I mean, even the rewards, like compared to Harvest, and Harvest, it was like, oh, here's a scrolling menu of 300 different crafts that are just insane, and it's gonna break the game. Here, they just like open a chest and drops a bunch of wisdom scrolls, and it's like,
lol, here's Bitter Dream.
yeah, like.
When do you think the boss fights are going to happen? Do you think it's going to be like when the alarm is triggered, like when you're doing your heist, or is it going to be like a standard boss arena?
Possibly both. I think both would be cool. Like there's, bosses that you have to like find in the blueprints one in the big grand heists, but then also if you screw up and put the alert too high on a high level one, maybe a massive security doggo guard thing comes out and tries to eat you alive.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah, if it was going to be like a betrayal type boss where you randomly just get ganked, like when you're exiting after you trigger the alarm.
Yeah, that's another thing, right? Because when you're exiting, you're supposed to be, they described as being swarmed by mobs.
Yeah.
But then how rewarding are these mobs? Do they give XP? Is the reward supposed to be just the fact that you're able to get out and actually keep your loot? But then the loot that I've shown us that we get isn't like crazy other than the alternate stuff, which is a pretty cool concept. Getting to the end of a grand heist and then choosing 1 out of 5 potential items. I can totally see that. Also like Omega backfiring where you run 10 of them and you just get nothing out of all 5, and then you get one where you have 5 really good items and you can only choose one, and it's just like
well, there's a couple of things on that, and before we go too crazy, I want to talk about my initial reactions as well, because I asked that question for a particular reason. But on that, it's worth noting the grand heist has multiple wings. So it's not just like one chest. If it was like one big chest in each wing, then it might be like 3 big choices. So at least it won't be as staggered. And yeah, also the contracts as like a small one kind of thing. And I'd imagine with like the big bosses and the grand heist, there might be like the big daddy trove room, which has got its particular like special named guard or something. So the reason we asked what our initial reactions to the trailer was, is I think that it's a very cool league, but I don't know if the trailer did a very good job selling it. So I'm in a similar boat to Ziggy. I knew the name of the league like a month ago or something. So I didn't know what the mechanic was, but I knew like the theming and everything. So I wasn't surprised. So when my initial reaction was different to most people because it's kind of like I knew some of it. But yeah, I found it really weird that they didn't show us a proper escape or like a fail, because that's like the most dramatic part of the mechanic, right? Like we saw the opening doors, which is cool, but we saw like 10 different clips of rogue exiles breaking doors, but we didn't see the...
Didn't we?
No, there's like a bunch. So through all the press footage and everything, we see the alarm trigger, like people run through a room, maybe like 1 or 2 mobs, then it cuts away.
Yeah,
one or 2. I don't know. That's being a bit disingenuous.
No, if you actually go through and watch the press, like Ziggy, through all the press footage, how much actual alarm gameplay is there?
Well,
there's one that I missed when I was making my video, so I didn't end up including it in mine. And the trailer's like a bunch of like skip jumps, like 5-second clips. There's one file called Heist contract.mp4 that has basically the video starts with them grabbing the artifact and the doors swing open, and then it's about 40 seconds of, well, about 30 seconds of escapey stuff, and it looks really freaking sick. Especially, I'm mega amped about this hype formation thing. There's this part around, like, I showed this on my stream after the reveal, but there's this part around like level 25 seconds or so where I have the file locally. Tarke, if he also has it, might be able to show it maybe.
Let me have a look. See.
I showed it on my stream. That's the thing. I would point you to the spot in my video, but I missed this part. I didn't include in my video. I wish I did because it's a really cool clip.
Yeah, I didn't see clips of that anywhere of like featured alarm gameplay. There was just like the 5-second clips in your video.
I'll see if
on
I
the
can
website,
find
there wasn't anything either.
It's called Heist Contract is the file.
Yeah, I'm looking for it now. So if you just keep talking about yourself while I try and find the file.
Yeah. So there's this new formation tech stuff. But there's a few things that they're like tinkered with the mob aggro stuff, pathfinding, but also this formation tech, which displays in two ways. Both mobs will move around in formation. So that's like if you want to stealth it up. That's like so you can, stealth around them and things like that. But the best thing is like if you're like opening a door or as you're escaping in a like primary choke point, the mobs form this formation. And this clip that I'm talking about, there's like, let me just jump forward a little bit. There's like 5 shield guys. They line up at the front, put their shields up, activate like a defensive ability. And then behind them, there's a bunch of guys with spears who charge up their spears. And then off to the sides, there's guys with like 2-handed axes and stuff like that. And then archers in the back row. So they form this like shield wall kind of formation thing blocking the doorway. And then as the player like blinks through the doorway, they all unleash their attacks at the same time. There's this massive volley of attacks. I'm like, holy shit, it looks so sick.
I found the clip and it also played on full volume and I've deafened the entire
That's
chat.
what happened to me during the Q&A with Chris. It killed me.
Yeah.
See, my understanding of that mechanic was that maybe they're so light on details, so it's hard to know. But I thought that was something that you encountered as you were breaking in, because like what we saw in the trailer was the formations getting formed up behind doors that you were about to break through, so that once you broke through, you had to deal with it. And I didn't think you had to break through doors on the way out.
This door's already open, but the mobs who have like, so the doors swing, like security doors swing open from the sides, and then mobs will, like guards flood in basically, and then they assemble in formations like to block your escape effectively to try and cut you off.
Ooh.
What I'll do, since I found the clip, I will swap the overlay over, I'll play that in full on the stream, and then I'll bring the cams back and we can talk about it. Just give me...
Yeah, it's around the middle of the video is the exact part I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just swap over.
Oh. Wow.
Oh yeah, this footage definitely wasn't in anything that I saw.
Yeah, that's the thing. I missed it from my video. I don't know how I missed the clip, which is a bummer because it's really good.
So it looks like he was killing a unique mob there, so that's like a mini boss.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
That attack though. How sick is that?
That's like turning a corner to a bunch of chaos spitters or something. That's scary.
Let's just watch that one more time.
Yeah, watch that middle part again. It's so good.
That's like Legion Mariketh mobs all over again.
Yeah, that looks pretty enough friendly. I think it was in one of the press release videos that we've seen somewhere, but definitely looks pretty spicy. And it's interesting that they form like that when you're exiting as well.
There's like some sort of rune on the ground as well. It looks like they weren't even attacking him when he had the doors open. They didn't attack him until he went through the threshold.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of clips of them using their formation, and the shieldy guys will block, and it seems like mitigates a ton of the damage because they weren't dying when they were attacking from the front into the shieldy guys. until they like got around the side of them or like kept going with it, and then they break formation. If you move behind them or if you kill off enough of their formation, they'll break formation and charge you. I'm really excited about this formation tech stuff. It's because it's very PoE2, right? This is all PoE2 stuff here, and this is like a different shape to combat than what we have in PoE, which is just blobs of mob rushing you constantly. So now like tactics, formations, kind of like different shapes of gameplay, different things you'll have to do when you move around and stuff like that. Like it's awesome.
It certainly moves the game in the direction that they seem to want to encourage it with skills like the new Flame Wall skill, where positioning matters. If positioning matters for the enemies as well, then that encourages even more positional gameplay.
Well, talking about that, like them going into two-part combat, where they want you to put a secondary skill down first that buffs your primary skill. How do you think that's gonna? How are they gonna balance mob? Because currently nowadays, right, if you stand still for too long, you're just gonna get projectile blasted down instantly. And do you see yourself using those new secondary skills during this league? Because everything's in tight corridors, and as we just seen in that video, there's a lot of projectile mobs.
I mean, you don't use it every pack. Like, you only need it on like bosses.
Well,
and
yeah.
stuff, And like, imagine how good, depending on what the numbers are, that on like a Spectre build, like just drop a Firewall in front of the boss, and all your Spectres just go. I'm gonna try and build a pure dot Firewall build. Hopefully, it does enough damage that I can just be like, just burn the entire screen. That's what I'm really excited for. But
I'm really curious as to how it behaves with something like Pyroclast Mine or Cremation, where you can have the projectile originate inside the wall, as to whether or not all of them get the buff from it.
Oh no.
And you also need to keep in mind, like, we've got so many ways to just automate spells these days. You could just shove it in a trigger wand and just be like, half the time it will go roughly where I want it to. So
you played Blade Blast, Bladefall, right?
Mods? Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I mean, that has a very similar playstyle, where you load up first and then you explode. I think you'll have from the looks of it, I think the Firewall, is it Fireball and Flame Wall combo?
I mean, they show a bit of that, yeah.
Anything fire. Should like elemental hit too.
So that kind of stuff, right? I think it's going to play very similar, as long as your secondary attack is enough AoE.
Yeah, when I played Bladefall, though, it felt a little clunky. I liked it more with like playing Pose Pen or a Trigger Wand, where you didn't really, or a Spell Slinger, you didn't have to like precast and then detonate. Yeah, it felt a lot smoother not doing the.
That's probably the same experience you will have with the other like combo skills. It's generally like the feel you get from combo skills.
I mean,
I looked at the video about like the footage, by the way. I think I've been colored by my own expectation, because after having rewatched it, I was like, there isn't as much as I remembered.
In terms of mob size?
Yeah,
it
was a little less.
It's also worth keeping in mind that because Firewall is meant to be a utility skill, it's going to have a much faster cast time. There's like a very big difference between like Blade Blast, which was made as like a actual hit skill, so it's quite slow, compared to something like Desecrate. Like Desecrate Cremation feels pretty smooth. So I hadn't seen that clip as well, so I feel, because I always expected that's what the game was. I just find it weird they didn't put that in the trailer, because I feel like if they put more stuff like that into the trailer, then the reaction to the league would be a lot more positive, because at least from what I've seen, the reaction's been very negative. I was expecting it a bit on Reddit because of Harvest Backlash, but even when I did my like Heist reaction YouTube video, the vast majority of the comments were pretty negative, which surprised me.
I think people have all sorts of what's the word for it? Notions or like ideas of how it's going to be, depending on what they've experienced before. So people they'll see Betrayal in there. They will see Lab in there. They will see all the things they don't like from all the different leagues they've had, and they will immediately reflect whatever it is they don't like onto whatever they just saw, because it really looks like an amalgamation of like a lot of different leagues. So there's going to be a lot of people who will immediately just jump to whatever they don't like and say, that sucks.
My impression is that
chat is right, but it's not exactly true, because like even initially on the video for the trailer, the downvotes were like it was like 70 to 30%. It's like 80-20 now, but that's a pretty negative reaction, honestly.
Yeah.
The initial like first day was very negative. When I put up my YouTube video, the first like 5 hours there were basically only negative comments, and now it's started to even out. It seems like as people have like watched the Q&As, they've watched other things, was the really good FAQ recently, people have kind of like, they've come to terms that it isn't what they thought it was. I think the trailer did a very good job selling the theme, but I'm just curious if it maybe didn't do the best job selling the actual gameplay we'll be experiencing.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to be overly mysterious. If they included some more gameplay footage showing hordes of mobs, like on the escape, people probably would, the reception probably would have been a lot more positive. However, they didn't do that, and they were trying to be all mysterious, and then that kind of jaded people's expectations and caused them to go crazy without actually knowing the full information on League.
Which never happens on the internet, right? It's mad. Like, that never normally happens.
Well, people are very reactionary. People are impulsive on the internet. They don't really think things out fully. They just see something, they fucking go typing right away.
It's a really difficult balancing act. It's a difficult push and pull because, like, you also don't want to give away. I think here you guys are right that they could have thrown some more in, but there's a part of me that also kind of likes not knowing as much about this mechanic going into it. Like, I maybe have the luxury of feeling that way though, because like I'm going to play the League. It doesn't matter. I'm going to play it. I don't have to, make that decision. It isn't a decision. It's a foregone conclusion. But yeah, I don't know. I personally like having a little bit more left in the shadows, so to speak.
I mean, it makes sense too, right? Because if you compare it to Harvest, with Harvest, it was like, this is what you're getting. That's it. Like, they showed us from the very beginning what it's about, what you're getting, and kind of where you're gonna end up. They didn't really necessarily show like the power of the items or how much you're gonna get initially, and obviously Harvest changed a lot over the course of its release. But if you don't like crafting, you don't play Harvest. But here with Heist, it's got elements that you might like, and it's probably got elements that you might dislike. And I also think it's only natural, really, that PoE with such a broad player base, there are people who love Delirium, hate Delirium, love Betrayal, hate Betrayal. Over the years, there's been just so many leagues. It's only natural that people are going to be kind of critical of new stuff coming out, and I really wouldn't take it too hard because it just makes sense. The audience is so different, and it's totally fine if some people are like, this is the best league ever, and then another league they don't even want to play. That's just the nature of PoE and how quickly it evolves.
Yeah,
I think if ZiggyD made a league like from now onwards, where 100 like it would appeal to 100% of the player base, it'd probably be the most mediocre league of all time. Like, it would be the most generic,
just incredibly thinly
non-special.
spread butter on a piece of bread. Just
Yeah.
graze everything slightly.
We're gonna move more and more towards like 50-50 reactions from audience, like where this 50% of people really love it and 50% of people really hate it. I'd much prefer that, where people like, I love it and I hate it, versus like, seems okay. Because like I want them to go all in on like a certain thing. Like I think they did with Harvest, right? Like they went all in on this like deterministic crafting, very specific players kind of getting into crafting, or people who are already really into crafting, and it did that like really incredibly, in my opinion. So the appeal to those people who did enjoy that was huge. Like a lot of people really, really, really loved Harvest. That's why there's been so much discussion over whether it should stay in the game and yada yada. Like continuous discussion ever since like week 2 of the league has been talked about nonstop, because that's like passion invoking, and that's what I want to see from leagues. So
Yeah.
I like to see the divisive reactions.
It's better to make an interesting, flavorful dish that maybe not everybody likes than it is to make a bowl of oatmeal.
I don't want to focus tested Path of Exile leagues.
No, I completely agree with that.
First time we've ever seen a medium core mechanic in Path of Exile. Do you think some of the reaction is because softcore players will potentially lose their loot for the first time if they fail, and they won't be able to get back through their 6 portals?
I think it's extremely dangerous, and I actually also really rather like the decision, but I think it's very dangerous because of how open and vulnerable it leaves the mechanic to disconnects, and I'm really actually quite worried about the grand heists and how those function with disconnects, because if you spend 2-3 hours of your time, and you know, you're someone who can only play, say, 10, 15 hours a week at most, which is, you know, a lot for some people. But let's go with that number. I'm not going to get into the debate of who's a casual. But if you spend 2-3 hours of your time and you don't have tons of time to invest, and then you go and run a grand heist, and then your internet cuts out halfway through and you lose everything, that's going to feel absolutely terrible. And I don't know if like the benefits of the medium core are worth that kind of risk when they have this kind of capstone content. Because with Delve, the most you ever lose with a disconnect is like, you don't lose the node. You can run it again if you have the fuel. You lose some fuel, and a Delve node is still very rarely like, you know, there's occasional ones like faceted fossils or something, but very rarely is a Delve node like the Delve node you've been building up to doing for the last 2 hours.
Quick thing just to fix a few things. So the pacing's meant to be quite similar to Incursion. So roughly 1 contract will drop per map. You can get more than 1, so you could get like 3 drop, or you could get no. But on average, you get 1 drop per. Every roughly 12, you can do a grand heist. So you should be getting, even if you're someone who's only playing maybe a couple of hours on the weekend, you should be doing at least a couple of grand heists. Also, grand heists have wings. So if you fail 1 wing, they haven't actually said if you fail 1 wing, you can still do the others, but the idea is that you could do multiple wings with them. If you disconnect or you leave before the alarm goes off, you can come back.
Okay.
So it's only, apparently they've clarified, yeah, so if you fail 1 wing, apparently you can still go do the others. So yeah, if you disconnect before the alarm, you're fine. If you disconnect after the alarm, yeah, you're screwed. But you've still got the other wings there. I will admit that was my biggest concern. I'm very happy we're getting medium core mechanics. I love that. I think we need more medium core. I think it's a very good direction for the game. But I do think that there's going to be some very spicy feedback, in quotation, on the forums and stuff in the first week or so. So you're like, screw you, GGG, my contraband exalted orb got deleted, I hate you, I hate everyone, this game is terrible, 1%, like, you know, just like full, you know, mouth on keys. But, yeah.
Well, that's how it is. Yeah, hardcore players are like the very, very loud vocal minority, and then softcore players are like the silent majority. They don't really say too much. They just go play the game and enjoy it. And us hardcore players, we're always trying to impose our philosophies on everybody else.
Is that sarcastic?
No, that's how it is.
Really?
Hardcore.
I would completely disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think the hardcore community on Path of Exile is definitely the most elitist, 100%.
Wait, you're trolling. I can't tell if you're trolling or not.
I'm not trolling, dude. Have you ever seen people when you try to play hardcore?
I didn't even know that there was a hardcore.
Yeah, like the hardcore community. There's like Raiz, Nugiyen, and that's it. Like, I mean, Dan. Like, there's like 4 players.
Like 4
But
players.
hardcore trade, do you mean Dan's private league?
Yeah, exactly. The hardcore players are very loud about certain things.
Loud where?
I still can't tell if you're trolling. Like, legit. What?
No, I'm trying. I'm being real right now.
Okay, real talk. If I ever make... So I mostly play softcore. I still play hardcore every now and again. Whenever I do anything talking about hardcore, it's just people saying, lol, log out core. Like, softcore's way more toxic to hardcore these days than the 10 hardcore players.
Maybe it's our different communities. Whenever I go... Yeah, people are hard... Like, yeah, they're very, very loud whenever you could treat hardcore or you talk about hardcore. Softcore players never really speak up. They're just like, I'm just having a good old time on softcore.
Load of
Hardcore players, you're like, oh, I want to go do something for fun. No, this is
feeding a narrative that doesn't exist.
I mean, hardcore players, you're like, oh, I want to go do something for fun. They're like, you're not going quick enough. You're not going fast enough. This guy's going so much quicker than you.
What?
Oh, you're not doing boss kills quick enough.
No, that's rubbish, dude. I'm sorry.
Pandering Peter over here. I don't know.
That's a bad take.
No, like I get where you're coming from. I totally understand that, but like you can't say 99% of the player base is softcore players, and then also say that the majority of the elitist feedback is from hardcore players. When
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you can't say that because how can it be when the minority is having the majority of the elitist take? Like,
okay, so basically it means the hardcore players, the community is a lot more smaller, but they're a lot more vocal on what
Louder.
they want. Yeah. Where softcore, there's a lot more softcore players, but they're not as aggressive and not hard strong on different things. But they're just playing softcore and they're just having a good time.
I think you're going to see a change in that perspective.
Just quickly before you go,
'cause I don't
Raiz,
think-
can we just dismiss? No one is having a good time playing Path of Exile. This is a serious job. We only play the most optimal builds. We have never once had fun playing this game. Okay, go on.
I've
continue,
never
Raiz.
even been in the same neighborhood as fun.
Yeah, what is fun?
Like I think I honestly don't know if the medium core thing is good for like PoE. As much as I like it, I think having the black and white kind of approach has been working for PoE. And generally, whenever I've seen something like that be introduced, or primarily in the form of less XP when you die on softcore, from the feedback that I've seen, people really dislike that. So I can see this potentially really hurting the game, or it only takes a couple of Reddit threads for everybody to have this perspective, even if they haven't encountered the problem of like getting disconnected or something like that. So
serviceability is very important with a league like this.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, look at something like Delirium as well. When so many items spawn, losing that whole setup you have also feels terrible. Where the whole map crashes. So it's not like they don't have the issues. I mean, they set themselves up a lot of the time where people build and build and build and use a lot of currency, and then the whole thing can crash. I mean, that's happened to plenty of people, and it always sucks.
I think another potential downside of this is that it's going to make players, particularly players who can't invest as much time, a lot more risk averse, and thus a lot less likely to do like the cool big end game stuff with the mechanic, because they're not going to want to get nothing out of the content they're trying to put their time into. So they'd rather do something that they've already explored a little bit and they definitely know they can beat it, rather than taking that next step into the potentially more interesting higher level heist or more dangerous heist with the boss and stuff. And they're just going to go, well, no, that could kill me and then I could lose all my stuff. I'm just going to go do the thing I can do.
However, you can sell these. It's the same thing with people running Shaper and Guardians, right? There are plenty of casuals out there who, after 3 years, will say, oh shit, I finally made it to killing my first Shaper. And you still get those kind of, stories. And it's because they sell all the other maps that they're too afraid of running to lose currency from. And you can do the same thing with this, because they finally made the content so you can trade it. And you can save it, and you can, prepare it and until you're ready.
I think that's my favorite thing about this entire league. So like 2 or 3 days before the league came out, I made a video saying like mechanics I would like to see in 3.12, and I was talking about like having more player choice. I think the best thing about this league from everything we've seen is we have full control over when we do the contracts. It's not you have to do them every map. They drop in the map. So you can do them right away, or you could save them up. Yes, if you get like a level 51, you're not going to want to use it when you're in mapping. But if you wanted to, you could be like, you know what, I'm just going to focus on getting my watchstones, and you could completely ignore the mechanic. And then as long as you've kept all of your like tier 1 maps up to tier 16s or whatever, you could run them all and you haven't lost anything. But even if you do lab, like you could be someone who farms lab, you're still getting the contracts. So
I see. Oh, go ahead, finish.
So you've got full like choice and control of when you engage with the mechanic, which is really good. Also, because of researching how the grand heists work, like you map everything out. If you are someone who's quite risk averse, you're quite afraid, you can be like, okay, I've seen what the most valuable thing in quotation marks is in this grand heist. I'm gonna get that and get out. It's not a case of every door you open is completely random. If you're researching it properly, you go in with all the information. And finally, it's not like this is the first league which has had a fail state. We've had a lot of leagues with fail states built into them. It's just slightly different because like using blighted maps as an example, like if you fail the blighted map, you don't get like any of the loot. It's just this time round, you have the loot in your inventory, so it will feel different because you're like, but I picked it up. But there isn't really much difference other than feel. That feel will matter because, there's a difference between you not getting Exalt you didn't see and you not getting Exalt that was in your inventory. But yeah, go on, Octavian.
I think the one problem that I see, or the one difficulty that's going to be frustrating to some people that I see with the saving them all up and not doing them until you have all your watchstones, is that it's going to be like the complaint a lot of people have with Delve, or had with Delve up until it got buffed a few times. You're going to have your rogues be like really low level and really low XP, and they might not be able to lockpick the doors they need to lockpick for, say, a T15 mission. So you might have to go back and do T1 and T2 missions that are completely irrelevant to your character, and do those until you can level up your rogues to the point where they can handle T15 and 16 ones.
I mean, yes and no. Like, in the scenario where, like, you're storing the content up, you would still do the early map ones, right? I feel like that's kind of on you. It's like, if you completely ignore the mechanic, you save everything, but then don't, like, you were to start with...
That's what I thought you were implying.
What I meant is, if you store them all and then you run them, you haven't lost out. It's not like, for example, with Incursion, where you have to do it. You can't just be like, I will save up my temples, right? With this, you can theoretically save all of your temples and save all of your incursions. It's the same with, like, with Delve, right? It's like it's Delve without a Sulfite cap. Yeah, you still need to do the early Delve progression, but you're not losing out on it. So yeah, same with, like, Synthesis, with having, like, if Synthesis with an unlimited grid, you might have to...
Besides trinkets, do you guys know of any ways that you could influence the loot within the heist? Is there, like, are we gonna have, like, crazy delirium mechanics where you're just gonna be able to have crazy like quant multipliers in there?
They showed the ability to roll the items before going in, but
none
of the rolled items,
trinkets,
none of the rolled items, like none of the mods, gave any quant from what I could see. It wasn't listed, at least at the top. Like, there wasn't an item rarity, item quant, pack size value. So I don't actually know what rolling them does. Maybe that's just because they haven't calculated those numbers yet. So, like, it just isn't in the game yet, and it will be. But yeah, as
people
of
are
the
saying
stuff
you can more of them. Yeah, I didn't see that post. Yeah, that would have been insane. Imagine delirium orbs in there.
No. We know that it doesn't interact with any of that, right? Like delirium and whatnot, because it's separate from the. You can't actually, like, you don't access it through a map, right?
No.
So...
You use. It sounds like you have to use a marker to teleport to the place, but yeah, you waypoint there or whatever it is. You go to the separate place. You talk to the lady. She teleports you in, and and you use the coins or markers, same thing, which drop in maps and they drop in the content, and you get most of them from selling the artifacts from the contracts.
Don't you? Do you only use the markers for the rogues, or
you only use them for, like, rogue stuff, talking to the teleporty lady, research, I think, as well, for the Grand Heist, I believe, use markers.
Research,
yeah.
I thought you had to use, like, just one of them to get to the rogue's place too, if I recall from one of the posts. Like, they stack to 50,000 though, so I don't think that's a big deal. I think that's just more of a flavor thing. Like, you have to pay a coin to get to the rogue's gallery or whatever it's called.
Someone had just watched, like, John Wick, and they're like, "Oh, you've got to pay a thing to get into the Continental." But, you know, it is a bit weird that they don't just let you waypoint there. But, you know.
To be fair, going back to the initial argument, I totally get it. Like, in the Gauntlet Race, I had this situation where I was right about to kill Kitava, and I really needed my harvest, so I gathered up and juiced up my harvest as much as I could when it initially happened. My character really, really sucked. And then I can't remember, but, like, my game crashed or I disconnected or something, and I couldn't access my harvest, like, right after I killed all the mobs. That felt like shit. And I mean, technically, it's only 3 rounds of seeds, but it felt really bad. That shit ruined my goddamn day. So if that's going to be happening to people...
But that always happens to people. Isn't it almost impossible to design your game based on you not having the ability to make anything that's, like, with servers and everything, where that just can't happen? How are they going to do that?
I get it, but it's exactly... It's just what Tarke mentioned, right? That there's a big difference between going in and not getting potentially something versus going in, getting an exalted orb or getting the item that you want, and then getting kicked out, essentially rolling you back because you don't get to keep it.
It's just the psychology, you know. It's the stuff you didn't see versus the stuff you saw and picked up. I really
that's
like
what-
the system. I think it's good. But
That's what makes it good, though,
Yeah.
in my opinion. It's like disconnects aside, because it's always like a mega bummer when you
Yeah.
lose stuff from a disconnect. But this like contraband medium core system, where there's no like technical real difference between like getting the loot at the end and not knowing what it is ahead of time versus getting it earlier, holding onto it and then losing it if you don't make it. Like there's no real difference there except the psychological difference. And I think this system is gonna make like the escaping portion of the heist 10
Excited.
times better. Yeah, it's gonna be so much more exciting when you're like, oh shit, I banked the Pog unique that I've been chasing, or I got 3 Regal drops and they converted to Exalted Orbs because of my trinket, and now I gotta get out with them. It's like that is gonna be so. Ooh,
But I
people are
feel
gonna be
like
like terrified escaping, and it's gonna be
it has to
great.
be so rewarding because that really has to be it. Because there's no way that these mobs like grant XP and you can just sit there as if it's a coward's trial and just AFK while like XP comes to you and drops come to you and just you sit there for an eternity. Like it has to be where the reward justifies how like potentially shitty getting out can be. And I just haven't seen that yet. Like I really haven't seen the rewards really be that great. And if
There's a
anything,
bunch of 6 links that dropped Raiz.
I wouldn't know. You know, people saw the 6-link thing and they were like, "Oh, this is perfect for you. You can get a 6-link enchantment.
Oh,
you can
no,
get your
no, no.
6-link." And I'm just like, yeah, the same way I found all those 6-link seeds in Harvest, right? I haven't fucking found a single one. It doesn't work like that. I'm never gonna get that shit.
Can
I
I
got
just
0.
Can I just say something?
Gamer.
They technically
0.
tried this mechanic
Nothing.
before, and it failed with Delirium. Because the idea of Delirium was you were meant to push to a point and then go, okay, too much, then retreat. But it didn't make sense because it was one of those things where, because of the way the gameplay works, you want to just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Whereas with this, it's the case of when you're opening all these rooms, if you get that insane item and you haven't triggered the alarm, you then think, okay, I've got the insane thing. Do I back out now and make it easy? Or do I get greedy and keep pushing? And that's the real thing they're trying to pull on with the players.
Wait, but can you do that?
Yeah.
Can you actually exit before triggering the alarm?
With the Grand Heist, actually, I don't know if... Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. You can just open one chest and then beeline out. Can't you, Ziggy? I'm pretty sure it's been
Then lose
confirmed
the
you
rest of
can.
the Grand Heist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the artifact itself is just markers, right? So
Yeah, but
like
so-
if you drop a
Yeah.
hit hunter,
But like, okay,
you
so
might wanna get
the
fuck
way
out.
the
You
way
don't
the
care about
Grand
the
Heist
artifact.
thing works is it's like there's 20 seconds before lockdown happens, right? So this is how you would think about doing it. So if you've done all the research and you've planned it out, you're like, okay, so that's the thing I'm stealing, and when I steal that, the alarm's gonna go off. So you could be like, I'm just gonna get that and just start beelining out, or you could be like, I've got 20 seconds. That's enough time that I could run over to this other room, break into that, and go for something else. So we might see like it might be a good meta to have like builds that can move very rapidly, very quickly, or like can travel distances.
So the markers are the rooms.
Say that again, sorry.
Or... Can we just have like a recap of like how the entire how
Okay.
Grand Heist works
So
from start to finish?
The markers are coins. Just call them coins because it's less confusing.
Right. Okay.
Markers drop just from playing the game, and when you steal artifacts, there's a vendor you sell for more markers.
Right.
You use
artifact is the last reward from a regular heist.
from a contract.
Okay.
From a contract,
From
yeah.
a contract. Contracts are like incursions. They're small little baby things.
Like the
right?
small ones.
Yeah, the small ones. The Grand Heist, that's when you get the really nice loot. So that's when you're going to get like the replica uniques, the alternate skill gems, the enchanted gear, all of that sort of stuff.
Like the temple.
Say that again, sorry?
Like the Grand Heist, the temple.
Yeah.
Okay.
The temple or the Grand Heist has multiple wings. So you run one wing, then you do the others. You can fail one wing and still go do the others. So if you spend your coins to research everything, you'll roughly know what the rewards are going to be before you go in. So you know, okay, I'm going for that room in particular because I want the reward from that thing. And then you steal it. You got that 20 seconds. You're like, do I go for another room? Or like, nah, I'm just going to peace out. Ziggy, correct?
You get intel from doing regular heists, so the more regular heists you do, the more intel you get, and that'll reveal both like bonus reward locations that otherwise wouldn't be available, so like an extra bonus loot room in addition to like the guaranteed vault at the end of a wing, or the big grand vault at the end of the whole thing. And you'll also potentially like uncover more things like escape routes and stuff like that that could make your getaway at the end easier. So yeah, the more regular heists you do in between your grand heists, the more intel you'll save up.
Yeah, and Ziggy, do
Just
you
the
know like
progression.
the power level? Yeah, like how quickly do your new followers, right? So you have like those 12 rogues hirelings that you're gonna have. How
Yeah.
much? Yeah, how much does leveling them benefit your progress, right? Because you have to open up each door individually, right? So in the videos,
Yeah.
like I know, like when I was watching, I was like counting. It took like 5 seconds to open each corridor. So how quickly is that going to go?
I don't know
And
whether they actually get faster or improvements
They
from
do.
Beck said
leveling
they
up
do.
in that. They do? Oh,
They do,
okay,
yeah.
cool.
yeah,
And you
'Cause
can
there's
give them
definitely a
items to make it
requirement.
faster too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say the gear seems to be like definitely a thing. Like probably get gear that speeds up their lock picking and whatnot, as well as makes it harder for them to be interrupted and so on.
Yeah, because the lock picking was like 5 minutes per door, and there was like a big door that took somewhere like 15 seconds to open up.
I timed from all the press footage I saw. I did miss one of those clips, as Ziggy said, so there might be another one I missed. From all the footage I saw, I timed it. The longest one I saw was 8 seconds. The average was 3 to 5 seconds. The like higher level stuff will take longer. But the higher level your rogue is and the better gear it has, the faster it will be. The longest I've seen was 8 seconds. It also depends on just how many doors there are. And if it's a case of, can we open all the doors in advance? Because if the stuff doesn't get triggered until you steal the artifact, you could just sneak along, open all the doors, so it's all set up, and then you just dash,
Yeah, for the grand heist, I think there is something like almost 20 interactions. So do you think that much downtime is going to influence people's take on the league? Just sitting around waiting for your followers to open up doors?
I think my biggest possible concern for the grand heist is in group play, if it'd be possible to split up. Because you've got that thing like, okay, we've got the 20-second alarm. Could you just unlock everything, then separate your group so you guarantee get 100% of the loot every single time? Because if that's the case, that's going to be really awkward to balance so that it's rewarding for one player who only gets like half compared to like, MP's group just banging them out,
I don't think you'll be able to do what you're describing, Tarke, because the lockdown actually locks the chests themselves.
Yeah, but you've got that 20
rooms that
seconds
access the
before.
chest.
So it's like if you separate everyone, so like say that you've got a room split out like this, right? You're like, okay, you'll get these 2 rooms, you'll get those rooms, you'll get those rooms. As long as it's all open, they'll just loot it within 20 seconds, then lockdown happens.
Yeah, okay. All right. I think that's a good point though, Mods. Like every time they reveal something new league, I try to think of like what's the things that people might complain about in the first week, so I can like ask questions about them and whatnot. But that's definitely one that I would identify as that like it might be the case where like week 1 they're like, yo, this all takes way too long to open all these doors, and because we're not getting attacked at the time, we're just kind of standing around too much. I could see that being, well, I don't know whether it's going to be, it might be balanced well, it might be tuned well to begin with and might not be a problem, but more likely, as we've seen in the past, it'll be the case that like feedback in the first week will be like, this takes way too long, and then GG is like, all right, we half the times on all the doors.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest point of concern was the amount of time it takes to open each corridor from the clips. But the clips don't paint the full picture because it's just segmented.
I mean, if you watch the clip of the big dude barreling through the door, that's literally 3 seconds.
Love that.
Yeah, but you also don't know like what level it was and how level he was, and it's just hard to tell right now.
But it's like it's not all the ones from all the ones I saw. There was only one that was 8 seconds. There was one which was like 7. There were a couple at 3, and it's like the average seemed to be 5 just from what we saw. So it really just depends on how many we have to open.
As long as something's happening, I'm fine with it. If it's like fucking Einhard where the mob is dead and Einhard's just like jerking off somewhere in the corner, I hate that, okay? At least with this, something's happening, I'm about it. So I think they're gonna do a good job with that.
As far as the party play things go, I think your concern might be legitimate, Tarke, as according to the FAQ, when you run a heist in a party, there's multiple artifacts that are assigned to each party member. So that seems to me like it kind of encourages splitting up. and having each person go after their artifact that's assigned to them if the other person can't even steal their artifact.
That sounds cool though to me. Like that's
Yeah.
like that sounds like a heist, right? Like, you know, you hit this while I'll be doing this, while you'll be, you know, keeping an eye on the hostages and all that sort of stuff like that.
And you just run off and
yeah.
aggro every single patrol.
It is very cool. The only thing that worries me about it, like, it won't affect me because I'm not going to play in a massive trade league and be super caring about this stuff. But it's kind of like what we saw with the Legion, where like it felt like the prices got dictated by the 5-way groups. And if that sets the market value, you'll have people who feel like they have to sell it because they'll get more money selling it than they would running it themselves. Even if it turns out that it's perfectly profitable to run it completely solo, like, once people have that in their head that, like, oh, I'm getting screwed because I'm playing solo, like, people will...
Shut down Reddit.
Yeah.
Don't let him talk about it. Honestly, if there ever was a league where this would work, I think what Ziggy mentioned is totally true. Like, it would be this one because it's just fucking cool. It's a heist. Yeah, I like that a lot.
It's
Do
also...
you see yourself actually interacting with the heist mechanic Raiz when you're doing hardcore solo self-found, or are you just going to do maps because you're racing?
It depends on the race, I guess. But
depends on what it gives you, rewards, XP.
I think I won't
Yeah,
do it
give you
until...
XP, so why can't this? You know, on completing a good heist, if you do everything right, maybe it gives you more XP. You know, for every single thing you do right, or maybe even like the way you do the objectives. Do you trigger alarms? Like, you can be rewarded for not actually engaging with everything. You know,
I mean, shit. Harvest barely gave any XP, and you sure as hell did it when racing to anything. So, you know, if they nailed the rewards, then it'll be good. Again, my biggest concern is the rewards, which is unusual for me because usually I let the other people worry about the rewards, and I'm just like, if this is fun, I'm totally cool with it. Like, I might not do it for the race, but outside of that, you know, it's only a couple days in, and I'm totally fine, right? But this time around, I think, with the last couple leagues, they've been really setting the standard for how rewarding some of these new mechanics can be and how much you can, like, cater it to what you want to do. Because I think Betrayal really, like, nailed that.
Yes.
Where you need, a specific item, you just get it through Betrayal. You need, like, a specific thing, Betrayal is your thing. And here you can kind of do that because you can... figure out what the big reward from your grand heist is going to be, so you can sort of cater it, but I don't know to what extent. But then for the regular heist, it seems like a lot of random stuff. And also they said that like practically all of the really cool shit is exclusive to their grand heists, like the alternative unique items, alternative gems. I don't know if they're not like gating this a little bit too much, because that's one of my biggest problems with Delirium right now, that for whatever reason cluster jewels are still behind Delirium, and I would hate for 900 new fucking gems and 100 new uniques to be gated behind this one thing.
But
that
keep in mind,
I have
you're
access
getting
to
one every 12 maps.
Yeah, it's just like, wait, I don't know if I'm a fan of that. It's so many things that you can potentially have access to that... Yeah, 12 maps is a lot of maps.
It also depends on how many gems we're seeing, right? Is it like a lab chest where you click it and like 20 gems pop out? Because if that's the case, then it's fine. If it's the case if you're only getting one gem, then sure. Like, I was thinking about playing SSF this league. If it's only one gem per, when there's like 4 variants of each gem, you're like on
But
suicide
didn't they say
watch.
that's what it is? Where you get to the end of the wing and you get 5 rewards and you get to pick one out of the 5, and it could be a unique item, it could be alternate gem.
I don't think we have confirmation on that. I think there's a distinct possibility that like some of the side branches in a grand heist might just have an alternate gem as a reward hanging out in them. But I don't think you're going to click a box and have multiple pop out, because from what we saw, the alternate gems were like sitting in little display cases. So it wouldn't really make logical sense for you to click a display case with 1 gem in it and then 30 pop out.
Yeah.
With the grand heist, do you think there's going to be any way to influence your reward types, or they're just going to be totally 100% random, right? Because they're not really that frequent, right? Like Ray said, every 12 maps. Are you just going to go to the grand heist, get random stuff, or is there going to be a way to be like, oh, get more uniques?
I mean, we can roll them, so that might be something we can roll on them.
I asked Chris about that, whether like specific heists had specific rewards, and he was suggesting that they do. That there will be like some sort
Oh,
of like if you're looking for certain things, you might go to certain ones.
Mhm.
So I don't know to what extent, whether like
They
maybe
answered
you're more
that with
likely
the
to see the
Q&A as
uniques
well.
or the bases or
That through the intel, you can research what the potential rewards at the end of a grand heist will be, so you can kind of like
You
target
can-
the thing that you want to do.
Well, you can know what you're going after by uncovering it through generating intel, but I don't think you can place something. So it would be like if you could build or if building Alva temples didn't give you the option to pick between two things, and instead you just uncovered what that room was.
But then you could buy someone's temple who had that.
Yes,
Yeah.
being able to buy them is a big deal, but I think I don't think you have as much agency over the grand heist. I think you're just kind of uncovering the grand heist. You have agency over which regular heists you choose to run, and those have different base types from what we've seen. So yeah, if you're like targeting something that shows up in a regular heist and you just want to keep running that over and over again to try and get the specific kind of reward that gives, that seems good. But the grand heists, you probably I don't know. From what we've seen, it doesn't look like you have that level of agency over them.
yeah.
Mm.
It's only the trinkets, right? But that's just mild. I'm talking about direct control via maps.
Yeah.
The trinkets allow like some control.
I mean, there's the trinkets and you can roll the
Rewards.
contracts. So we've got like decent-ish.
The thing
amount.
is, too, there's a lot of like micromanagement in between that, you know, even managing your intel for like between those 12 maps on top of managing the items on your rogues and all this, and then catering them for that specific grand heist or heist that you're going to do, and potentially switching out your trinkets for mapping versus doing heist versus doing grand heist, like 12 maps and a bunch of micromanagement.
Do we
we
need to
have a
micro between the
specific trinket slot?
contracts? Isn't it just you just run the contracts as is, Ziggy?
You were both talking at the same time.
Sorry.
What?
Raiz was saying that it's loads of micromanagement because you got to micro between all the contracts. Don't you just run the contracts as is?
I hope that intel is like a resource you can spend that banks, so you don't have to do it between each heist. I would assume that would be like the first thing that they would figure out when it comes to that. So hopefully so. I don't actually know exactly how you physically go and apply the intel. There's some like clips of the like UI of them doing it, but I don't know the gathering of the intel part. Apart from the fact that you get it from regular heists,
You got to
But
talk to
hopefully
the
you just
barber,
yeah.
and then he
But
unlocks it.
hopefully you just do like a bunch of heists, and then you've got like several blueprints, and you just like pop one in, and you like reveal what the rewards are, and you're like, okay, this is good, I'm gonna do this, and you reveal the rest of the stuff, and then you run it. Hopefully that's the case. I would.
Yeah, but then also
assume
if you
that's
want
how
to
it works.
min-max it, then again, you're going to be switching out the gear on your rogues, and you're going to be switching out your trinket depending on what you want out of that. Because
I don't
also
think
your
you'll switch
trinket,
rogue gear. That doesn't affect the loot. That's just like how it's just like their performance stuff. I think you'll just give them the best equipment you have available for them. But the trinkets, yeah, I could see swapping.
wait,
yeah.
how do you mean? You can like decrease the alert levels that you get versus them doing things faster.
Yeah,
Like,
on your
that's
trinkets.
pretty impactful. No, on the gear and on the trinkets as well.
I think potentially
yeah.
the
You
most
wouldn't swap
obnoxious
it though.
playstyle that
Why not?
There's what 4 pieces of the gear on each one of your hirelings, right?
Yeah.
Each one of your
Yeah.
rogues. Yeah.
Yeah, you would just give them the best one. Why would you swap? Like, why would you hot swap their gear? I can't imagine doing that.
I mean, the most obnoxious thing I could maybe see you doing. So with contracts, it's only one rogue. If you're playing an environment where you're not trading much, or you just had like one really good piece, you might have a thing where you've got to be like, you don't have to. You might feel compelled to swap your best gear set between your rogues. That's the most obnoxious micro I could see.
Wait,
And-
what?
Oh, yeah, that'd be
I'm surprised that you guys would say that. What do you mean? Like, if you're running the contracts, then you want to run them as fast as possible, and you don't care as much about the alert level if you're looking to do grand heists. So at that point, you're equipping your rogue with gear that allows you to get through shit as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But then if you're in the grand heist, you want to get through as many walls and you want to open up as many chests as possible. So you're going to give them gear that's going to minimize the alert level. And then the thing
Maybe.
about trinkets that's surprising to me is that they also work outside of heists. So you're going to be
Not
using a
much.
different trinket for mapping than you will be using for heists, which is surprising.
If there's any other modifiers than what we've seen that affect maps, maybe. I think the one that we have seen, which is increased market drop rate, I don't think that'll be significant enough to warrant swapping for maps. Maybe though.
Trinkets don't apply in maps. When you say maps, do you mean the normal heist raise or
Well, there was one
No,
modifier on
they
the
do
2
work
revealed
in maps.
trinkets that was most of them don't. Most of them specify in a heist. Because they affect like, specific heist stuff. And they qualify that. But there was one modifier that was increased market drop rate, which is only works in regular maps actually, because that's the only time markers drop. The way you get markers from heist is by
Selling artifacts.
fencing the item, right? So, but from what it sounds like you might get like a couple of markers in a map, versus like fencing an item for 500 markers. So I imagine that's not significant enough to warrant swapping trinkets. Yeah, unless there's another modifier that's like more contract drops, in which case you're definitely going to swap if they. But I hope they don't do anything like that. Honestly,
Yeah, I would do that as well.
Contracts.
But even that,
the
like
people in chat, sorry, that are saying like Q&A explicitly said they straight up showed a mod in the trailer. So unless they've retconned that mod, they showed us a mod that affected maps. But as Ziggy said, the vast majority won't. Go.
Yep.
Do you think the heist trinkets are a precursor to permanent new trinket slot? Isn't this is like one of the only ARPGs without a permanent trinket slot?
I would be surprised. It's an interesting concept, but like, I don't know. They've told us how scary it is to add pants to the game, right? Where they forgot about adding pants, and eventually they were like, "Well, this would actually change balancing in like a major way, so we can't do it anymore." And now you would do it through a trinket. I mean, I guess it's a
normal
like
gear though.
Wasn't this more about figuring out whether or not hirelings and that's that kind of stuff works?
I think
so.
so. Maybe.
Testing more here.
And you would always want, like in an ARPG, you would want to be able to gear your hireling or your mercenary. So I mean, it makes sense that they have that if they're introducing it. If they have to have any like meaning.
What newer
question
ARPGs
is-
really have mercenaries that are meaningful though? Last was Diablo 2.
They're trying, like they're trying to see whether or not it fits and whether or not. I mean, and then you need to keep
That's
them
in the
in
waters.
Yeah.
I
I do think that what if ever possible that you can min-max trinkets, people will min-max their trinkets. I think Raiz is right on that. And if they do have the like anything that works outside, people will go for it and they'll be annoyed by it. So if they don't have a good UI, I think a lot of this rides on the actual UI and whether or not there's going to be storage to the right place and you can hot swap when you want to if it's necessary, without having to tinker with like some other.
I would just hate if that were to be like the annoyance of the micromanagement of the gear of the rogues and the trinket would be the thing that would dictate when you're doing your heists rather than actual like availability of content. That would really suck. If it's like too much of a nuisance to switch out a bunch of gear slots, it's like that would But hopefully it's just absolutely not going to be the case. It just goes back to kind of how Dell felt initially and how you were like pushed into doing it at specific times and stuff like that, which they've greatly mitigated over time. And now it feels a lot better and they've done a great job with missions. But yeah, it's something to worry about, I'm sure they're going to nail it and we're not going to be testing for the first 2 weeks. It's going to be good.
Trinkets are a very interesting question though, because I see them less as like a pan situation because they're not a regular piece of gear, but rather they're a answer to the potential question of what do you do with magic find. So personally, I hate quantity and rarity, and I hate that being like a competing thing for gear. I think that's like anti-fun in my opinion. But trinkets, if they are the answer to magic find, a dedicated slot that only gives magic find stuff, so there's no trade-off question there. But instead, the idea is that it allows you to customize what type of boost you're getting, and they completely skip quantity and rarity on it, and instead do interesting shit like items drop corrupted and other stuff like that allows you to kind of more tailor the types of loot you're seeing. Maybe like, more influence bases trinkets, so you're like trying to farm for your Elder Axe, so you swap into that to try and help with those sorts of things. That could actually be a type of magic finding gear that I would potentially be into, which shocks me to say.
I wonder if that would actually work outside of SSF though.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
I mean, it would work.
I wonder
You
if
think
in
so?
that context, like, would you want them not to drop corrupted then? Would you want this to be another craftable base essentially, or do you think that they would need to remain? Because one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting about the trinkets is that they are going to drop corrupted. So what you see is what you get, and like if you want a particular role, then you're gonna have to either buy it or hope you drop it.
I mean, that could also be an attempt to try and stop the annoying micro that Raiz was talking about. Because if you had full control over it, then you would have like the perfect one for this and then the perfect one for that. Whereas because it's corrupted, you just get, okay, this is as good as I can kind of get.
Just buy it, lol. No problem.
But no, I agree with Ziggy. I think that'd be a really fun system. Like one of the things that I like a lot about Last Epoch, I don't know if they've changed this. I remember speaking to one of the devs earlier. They were saying how they purposely never wanted MF in their game because MF just breaks so many games.
And they've got a system in their new end game actually that's a little like this in a way, but it's not a gear. It's basically it's like their version of the Atlas thing, where you whenever you complete like a section or a sector or a zone, you get to choose certain rewards that apply globally to like the Atlas thing in that game, which is stuff like increased glove drop rate, or increased unique drop rate, or increased specific types of bases and stuff like that. So they're kind of tailoring your overall across the board loot, which is a little bit like what we see with the trinkets. Kind of interesting.
I would love for that to work. It's just I find it difficult, outside of like people just saying this is what on average yields the highest reward, so everybody should use it. Again, for us,
it's like high quantity and rarity.
Yeah. No matter what though, people always min-max everything, and you can't bounce around the min-maxers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well,
you do to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, you can avoid the question of the min-maxing by making it so that there's no one correct answer for everyone. That's how you answer the min-maxing question. It's like, people are always going to min-max it. That's fine as long as you make it so that there's like 1,000 different answers to the question.
Multiple problems to solve.
It's also about like how big the gap is as well, If someone's min-maxing to 10-15%, no one really cares. But if it's complete light and day differences, that's when it's like a bit of an issue. Since we spent quite a lot of time at this point, if we just round table, if we just go like main concern, and then we'll go more into some positive stuff and talk about the gems and the skills. So let's go with Octavian. What would be your main concern from what you've seen so far? Or unanswered question?
We've kind of covered a lot of the concerns that I had. It was about like people getting tired of the animations, like DatModz mentioned, and things about the pace of the gameplay. Pardon me, dying a little bit.
Just stop.
Yeah, I don't know. We just have such sparse information that it's hard to have a lot more specific concerns than that. I'm trying to think of like other things that might present a bit of a worry. I think at its core, I'm intrigued by the idea of the medium core stuff, but probably my biggest concern is that it just won't go over well with the community at large, and a lot of people are not going to enjoy risking their items that they earned on the way in, having to get them back out.
Can anything have a worse initial impression than Harvest, though? I don't know. Harvest was pretty like...
That's the thing that I find so funny about Harvest, is how hated it was to like, this is the best thing. Like the people who like, I will quit Path of Exile if we never have Harvest. It's like, go.
Yeah. I think part of that is selection bias, because a lot of the people who like hated it on first impression probably played for 2 days or didn't play and then left.
True.
Pretty terrible for the first like 2 weeks in terms of balancing. Remember they put out that patch and they made it so you couldn't get like add remove things, and you're just like, all I'm getting is reroll every single harvest I do, and you're just like, I'm not getting any meaningful crafts.
Harvest was weird. It was really good for the first week, then they broke it for a couple of days, because I remember me and Ziggy had the exact same experience. We were both like very early adapters on it, so we had some like nice crafts in the first week, and then we didn't play very much after the patch, and I was like, I haven't noticed any problem. And I started playing again right after the patch. I'm like, it's fixed. But yeah. I don't know.
Wait, you could only get like the augments and everything outside of maps. Like that was the shitty part for me. That's why I felt bad at first. Because like you would be leveling and you'd be like, oh, I can augment this, I can augment that, oh, I can make the items, and you'd get to maps. It's like I just ran 100 maps and literally didn't get a single anything.
It's like, was bug.
Yeah.
I was bugging the first day for sure because of that, because of like how good it was while leveling in that first character.
I don't think that everyone just who ended up in Harvest thought that Harvest was the greatest thing ever at the end. I think that is like being I don't know where did you really enjoy the garden at the end?
No.
because I fucking hated it from start to finish. I thought it was a terrible experience. I thought the UI sucked. I hated to finish with it. And that was Harvest. That's the main thing that the league itself was. And then there was the actual meta crafting, which the majority of people who stayed liked, I feel. But I feel like that's two different things.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
The crafting was good.
It's quite funny. I
Far
made
back.
a video. We're kind of jumping topics a little bit, but sorry. I made a video when they did their manifesto about Harvest, and I was kind of saying, I mean, even if you're for determined crafting, I think we can all agree that we're glad Harvest as a core mechanic didn't go core. And the main resounding comment was, Tarke, of course we don't want Harvest. Like, of course you don't want that. We just want everything from Harvest added to the game somehow. And it's like...
Well, people learned from the feedback they gave for Synthesis, right? Like, because the Synthesis was like, no, Synthesis, no. And then when they left, everybody was like, whoa, but these things are really cool. Bring them back. Bosses and everything, that's hella cool. I don't know. It's different for me with Harvest, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, Harvest eventually even got to a point for me where I think in the short term, it would do more good than bad. I think it would do a lot of bad, so it's not necessary to like do it now because eventually you can do it a lot better. But even if you were to add it in its current state, I think it would still do more good than bad. But it would do a lot of both, for sure. So
impactful, for sure.
Yeah, impactful.
Well,
In the best and worst
like-
way.
Well, so your problem with the deterministic crafting is that your item can never break. What if when you're doing the add removes or whatever, it has the potential to break your item that you invested into?
Oh, I hate that.
You hate that?
Yeah. I remember that from other games, and I know Last Epoch does that, and like I just remember playing Fliff and stuff, and that had systems like that. It's like, well, will this 14th upgrade in a row break my item completely? Oh, guess it did. Lol. Time to start all over again. It's like, what? This is not a fucking system.
I mean, that's sort of what we have right now. You know, you
It is, yes.
It didn't hit. Oh, we can try and annul. Oh shit, I annulled the one thing that actually made it good. Brigged.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I'm saying that even in its current ridiculously broken state, it would do more good than bad, because it's like you don't have items in PoE. There's no crafting system. It's like either 100% item or a 0 item. You know, there's so little in between.
I mean,
and you can just continue to develop with Harvest. So
I
like
a
that.
bit
But it's
disingenuous.
definitely, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not taking back all of the things that I said why it's got like these Omega problems.
I mean, since we're having the discussion, let's just have the Harvest discussion now, and then we can return to Heist and the skill gems. Because we're having the discussion, so you may as well have the discussion properly. So I just want to focus on that one point. So when you say that items are everything or nothing, what do you mean by that?
Like, well, I guess it's mostly about the process of getting there, more so than anything else. It's about the incremental increases through Harvest that can end up being pretty impactful, while currently in PoE, you either get like an Omega item that sells for 4 mirrors, or like even, well, let's say 4 Exalted Orbs, after spending 100 Chaos, or just rerolling with 100 Chaos, or you end up with an item that sells for 3. I feel like there's just very little in between outside of Harvest, and that feeling kind of sucks.
Would everyone else agree with that? I don't think I would.
I mean, I understand some of the sentiment there, and I think there's parts of it that I agree with. Like, it's difficult to justify trying to craft something really good unless you're trying to craft the thing that's the most good without Harvest.
Right.
But it's not that hard to justify trying to craft something that's good enough. So like you can get your like middle class entry item, not even that difficult to do without Harvest, between like fossils and essences, and for some things where you just need like one good mod and then you can fill out the rest with kind of meh stuff, even alt aug regal spamming. But going from, you know, the thing that's say at 60% that's good enough to get you through the content, to the thing that's at like 70-80%, that's comparatively way too much more effort to do. So you may as well just go for the thing that's 90% plus, because it's about as much effort and something better.
And just to clarify, it's the chaos to item value ratio is primarily what I'm talking about. Because some people mentioned hardcore economy and all this sort of stuff. Getting boots that have triple resist, 80 life, and 25 movement speed on softcore is what? That's like a 3 chaos trade. Trying to roll those boots with chaos, we're talking about 200, 300, 400 chaos before you get anything. And that's where like this shit falls apart for me.
Before they ever even touch on restructuring the crafting system, they need to rework the loot system. Because kind of right now, it just feels like you're playing base farming simulator, right? When you're doing your maps or anything else, you're like, oh, I just need this, I don't know, 86 thing. I could just gamble on it until I get something good with fossils or essences, whatever your means of crafting is. But I think before they ever even redo the crafting system, they need to restructure how the loot drops.
Chat is correcting me. Let me look this up,
Yeah, I would say that like the system in place now outside of Harvest is often attacked as being like pure gambling and you don't have much control over it. I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that the system is functional. I would say that the system isn't very compelling compared to what Harvest can offer in a lot of places though. Like I was way more invested in crafting a really cool PDPS weapon during Harvest than I've been invested in crafting something in a long time. And that's speaking as someone who actually really enjoys crafting things with the base crafting system. So I think it did a really good job of making the journey of an item more compelling. It just needs to be toned back in terms of what it's capable of in certain places, and then some similar system could be reintroduced.
PoE.
Oh, go on, Nugiyen.
In regards to like item bloat, because I think like the restructuring of gear, like Mod said, and also DG said, and which were they're working on, is that there's just too much of everything, and so we're no longer we can't pick up as many rares anymore, right? Like there's just too many, so you have to go to the net. So how do you get your item? You get it by picking up currency to roll them. And over time, we've just got more and more and more and more currency. So it just takes more and more and more and more to get to that step that we want. So that's why we're here. Yeah. There's not really anything that can be done about it before they like restructure.
Why has someone turned the thing into a stream? Did you do that, Raiz? Can you get rid of that?
I think so.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Right. Thank you.
I was just showing chat the 150 items for 3 chaos. Apparently, I know softcore trade better than they do, but I mean,
unlucky. I was so salty about the boot comment.
Yeah, because people were like, wrong. When the fucking SSF hardcore guy knows more about your trade league than you do, don't try and get into on the argument. It doesn't make any sense.
He was so committed, chat. He ruined our overlay to show you.
I literally did it, and I will do it again. Anybody want to buy some boots? If you guys are paying 60C, I'm about to make bank right now. I'm about to flip this ass off. It's gonna be sick.
I would completely agree with DatModz and Niggy. I think the crafting thing, like, I don't think because I've said this consistently throughout the entire league. I don't think we could never have that kind of system, but the game isn't ready for it. Like they've said so many times how they are planning all these massive loot changes. They're even experimenting a little bit with like some of the stuff with this league. We're getting the smart loot and stuff. And once you give that level of full-blown crafting power, you can't pull it back. Yeah. So it's like if you give that now, and then you completely change how the loot drops, and then the looting is so much better, then it's just like you've then just like killed the entire gearing of PoE. Because you can't just look at things in a vacuum. You need to look at like the long-term health of the game. So yeah, I think it's a lot better that they address the core loot stuff they want to get done, and it's like, okay, from that we've got a more informed position, and then they start working on the crafting rather than they just like, because the Harvest would be a lazy fix, in all honesty. If they were just like roll it, it'd be lazy as all hell.
It would be a super short-term solution. That's why I'm saying that it's only ever like a good thing in the short term, or not a good thing, but a better than worst thing. Long term, you can do so many things, and I think they learned with Harvest so many things that they could do for PoE. And I mean, man, deterministic crafting, increasingly difficult to like argue against it, honestly, in any way in PoE. I think it just feels way too good to make your own fucking gear, you know? And like
It's not
SSF is way too extreme, and there's very little middle ground between the two. And it's just, yeah, it's just a great freaking feeling.
I think though it's a bad thing because it would be a short-term patch until Path of Exile 2 comes out. Do you think
Well,
a deterministic crafting that gets released like next league or something and lasts just a couple leagues would not be better than what we currently have?
They couldn't take it away. You like
Right,
you,
because we don't need it in Path of Exile 2. Path of Exile 2 is just like a reset kind of.
like Chris's
Ooh.
he always goes on about the Marvel Heroes thing. Like they're so careful of ever like doing big sweep like pull back from the player base because he's like, we don't want to kill the game, we don't want to do a Marvel Heroes. So they would never be like, we're gonna give you this for like a year, because you need to keep in mind PoE 2 it's not going to come out to like 2022 2023, right? So it's like we would have Harvest for a while. Even if they gave us the loot stuff like well in advance, if they're like, we'll have a year of it, then the new loot system comes in, they can't just pull that back.
Yeah, but like PoE 2 isn't going to be this. Suddenly the game's completely different. Like we are playing PoE 2 right now. Like the game is very clearly in like a transitional period right now.
I mean, we are and we aren't. If you remember when we
dude,
had Chris on the last podcast, I asked him like, how do you deal with the expectation that it fixes everyone's problems? And he said it is gonna fix all the problems of PoE. Like he made that claim.
Over the course of like the year with like a final stamp of approval at the end, I think there's going to be a lot of things that, for instance, the new ability, the black hole thing.
Yeah.
That is a
So
skill
dangerous.
that makes absolutely zero sense in PoE right now, because in every ARPG that works like PoE, Diablo 3, Last Epoch, Wolcen, every single time that skill was Omega cool, Omega strong, every build used it, big problem. In current PoE, I don't see that shit simply not being overpowered, so why would you add it? But in PoE 2, where we're clearly heading into a more cooldown and like rotation based combat, that's like the coolest ability ever. So we're gonna end up with these things. It's like kind of like it feels like a WoW patch where you get the patch before the expansion and everything's completely broken. I think we're gonna have some of that, maybe not to like this great extent like it is in WoW, but yeah, there's just gonna be some things that are spooky.
I mean, pre-patch is fine, but you do need to keep in mind that PoE 2 is like a couple of years out. It's not like.
Wait, you really think
Next
it's coming
patch.
out in 2023?
Yeah. I mean,
Wait, really?
following the schedule
Ooh.
that Chris outlined, they finished Act 1. They haven't finished 2 and 3, but they're working on them. They're currently doing 1 act a year, and they're trying to bring it down. So there are 7 acts. So that's they've got to finish 2 and 3. So let's say they finish that this year, because this year's nearly over. They've then got 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's say they get down to. They said something like 3 months or something crazy, but let's say they do like 6 months. That would be 2 years. And that's just the acts. There's all the other stuff as well, right? So, and I would expect that we'd get the beta, in like December 21, maybe like a year or so from now, and then it'll be like December 22. Is kind of when I would see it coming out. And
They said 2021, but then it got delayed recently because of all the COVID stuff.
that was beta. That wasn't launch.
That was beta?
I mean, okay,
I thought
Ziggy,
they
you're an
expected a
intelligent
full release in
person.
2021.
Would you agree with my rough timeline? No offense to anyone else on the podcast, but like,
Beta was planned for the end of this year originally, I thought. And then, yeah, it's been pushed back quite a while now.
but
I mean,
would you
can
say my
overpromise a little
December
bit or have
22 is
too
kind
much
of...
hope as well? Just because they want it like that. That's that's when they would want to have it out. That doesn't mean they couldn't delay. Even the best scenario could still be delayed, even if they wanted to have it out by the end of this year.
Just as someone who's waiting for the game to come out and being, hyped about it and stuff, I would err on the side of pessimism, because at worst you're pleasantly surprised when it comes out sooner than you thought. I don't, especially given the recent complications. I don't think it's gonna be here really super soon.
I mean, do you guys think that timeline's off? Because based on what they've
No,
told us,
that's
that seems very reasonable.
I think it's off based
even-
off of what Chris told us recently, no? Because
Yeah,
they
it's
said
far
that
off.
one act took them a year or something. So maybe it's in 7 years. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he said Act 1 took them a year, though, but that makes the most sense for Act 1 to take the longest in some ways because they're laying the groundwork for how PoE 2 even works. Like, before they can build any acts, they have to make the game function, and they have to put in, like, the basic stuff. And
That's fair.
they've already done that now, so making Act 2, 3, 4, 5, all those is going to presumably be...
And they're building new assets, and they're building all this like vast database of things they probably need to use going forward, right?
Like they had people in was it Poland? I think it was scanning castles and stuff. Like they're taking this stuff seriously.
True. I do wonder though, like how much their timeline is actually dictated by Diablo 4 as well. Like
that let them relax a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
They have some time.
Wait, you think so?
Yeah, Diablo 4 yet? I think Diablo 4 should be like 2023, probably.
Yeah.
I'd say 23, 24 for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
When
do you think it's better if they wait to release Path of Exile 2 after Diablo 4? Or do you think it's better if they do it before?
After.
So do you think strategy is going to come into play with Path of Exile 2 being released?
Think about how good PoE like kind of kicking into gear just a little bit after Diablo 3 Shine wore off for people. That was like the key to PoE's success. PoE would not have been so successful in those early days had it not been for like just at the point where everyone was like mega like down on D3.
Yeah.
They're like looking for, you know, their new home. So they clung to PoE way more passionately than they would have otherwise. Otherwise they might have just tried and be like, yeah, this is cool. But
I wouldn't even have been in the ARPG genre at that point if Diablo 3 hadn't been out.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's
I would have still been probably playing WoW and maybe some FPS games.
To some degree, it lets them capitalize on the broader reach that Diablo and Blizzard has. They act as the gateway ARPG, and then Path of Exile is the hard stuff.
Were you at the BlizzCon DatModz? Did you get to play the demo for D4?
No, I didn't get invited to BlizzCon.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. I actually asked the community manager at the time, and they said they forgot about me.
Oh
no!
Oh, that hurts.
Oh.
Okay, hang on. Let's stop the PoE talk. Let's just talk about this for a minute. Okay, let's. Then what did you say?
Well, she would like, the community manager at the time was like, oh yeah, it's like when you took your break from streaming. This was a couple years prior. Like we just forgot to put you back on the list. And I go, okay, and they're like, oh, we'll put you back on the list now, though. And I'm like, okay, that's fine with me.
And then she got fired. Nice.
Yeah, I think she left the company. Yeah, she didn't get fired. Yeah,
that's with Wizards, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
she's cool.
Yeah, well, so I haven't been able to get my hands on Diablo 4 yet.
Yeah.
We were talking about the concerns of the next league. If we wanted to wrap that up real quick.
Sorry.
Sure.
What?
Okay, but
I can go.
Go on, then.
Because my concern would be the UI. I feel that's been a big concern in many leagues, and this seems very UI intensive in terms of whether or not it's going to succeed. So I think if there was something I would say, it would be that, and then the whether or not you feel like you're waiting. So, but I don't know, like remember Betrayal and the how hard it can be sometimes to like track where the lines go, even still, like who do you put where and all that kind of stuff. And we just saw Harvest. I felt like that was a clusterfuck from a UI perspective. I feel like it's one of their weak points overall. It's really just nailing a good UI that doesn't feel too intrusive, but still does its job. I think Delve did a really good job. It's one of the few ones they did really well.
I think it's partially because that's one of the things that's really, really hard to get right without a lot of like small adjustments and iterative testing. So it's one of the things that's hardest to perfect in the rapid development cycle that they use.
I used to think that it was a UI problem, but I'm slowly starting to think that it's because how can you do a UI that just doesn't cover up the majority of the screen? I guess like incursions would be the least intrusive. I feel like the problem is more the gameplay of something constantly trying to fuck you over while you're looking at a betrayal board or a Xana like selection. Like that's the problem, because I don't know how else you can fix it. Because I would get pissed off about that all the time. How like betrayal board is full screen, bad UI for sure, but it's because the gameplay doesn't support it. But like,
Okay,
how can
I'll
you get
tell you a
away from
thing.
it?
Okay, so let's say you're doing betrayal, right?
Yeah.
You get to the end, the board comes up, right? Let's say that whenever you're hovering over with your mouse, it's active. Something attacks you, you know, you move away, you click away, it immediately goes away, and then you have to like just re-hover over the top, and it's back without you having to click anything again. It's just like active, but then you do something, and something comes or attacks you, or let's say just even being attacked, moves it.
Yeah, just
Like
transparent
there's so many.
elements,
They
yeah.
have so many options of just making it not a terrible experience.
I remember actually. I don't remember what ARPG it was, but there was another one that I was playing where every time there would be like a full screen UI thing, and something would hit you, no matter for how much damage. I think it's Grim Dawn. Your entire screen would just go brrr, it would like red, and there would be a sound and everything. I think it was when you're looking at the divinations in Grim Dawn, and it was just such a fucking incredibly stressful experience. And then I tab out because I think I'm dying like in PoE, and it's like one little wormy guy just like hitting me for 1 damage. It's like, dude, this ain't a big deal. So yeah, I mean, that would definitely be a step in the right direction for sure. It is very frustrating, again, having those like, because you even brought up Delve, but Delve even has those like little spider fucks that split up into more spider fucks after like 3 seconds. So you're trying to look at your Delve, and then you're getting hit for like 1 million damage, or like one of those Screecher guy rolls up from the side and just hits you for all of your HP instantly. It's just like, dude, what I'm trying to progress here.
I just think that there needs to be more of an effort to, and from DGG to look at what is the worst case scenario that the player, you know, encounters with these, you know, with these mechanics, and how do we mitigate that so it doesn't annoy them?
The answer is always menus that pop up during combat, but that won't be a problem here because all the UI stuff won't be in maps. There'll be no UI stuff in maps.
Yeah,
so it shouldn't be a problem here at all.
And I think the more often you can tie the decision that you're making that would have been relegated to clicking a button in a UI to an actual in-game action, the better. So like in, say, Incursion, there is some intrusion of the UI because you have to look at it to decide which of the architects you want to kill, but you're not clicking a button to make your choice there. You're going and killing the architect, which is an in-game action, and so you're not being taken out of the gameplay for it. So I think with Heist, I'm not too worried about that as far as the actual gameplay in the heists. I think there's probably going to be a lot of menuing between things, which might get a little bit tedious and tiresome in that you're going to have to like deal with.
But I feel like
that's
the important part to weed out, because then that never becomes a point of, you know,
contention,
a point that you can be like that you can follow.
So how do you make that a like gameplay action instead of a menu action? With Heist.
I mean, it's more just making a good menu, making it seamless, and making it so that.
I mean, that's obviously, if you're going to need to put the menu in, that's obviously what you'd want to achieve, is you want a menu that's intuitive and not clunky and easy to use.
I just don't think they've generally been good at that.
I would
like to see them do better.
I think an even better solution is to try to eliminate the need for the menu.
Sure, I could see that.
I think you could potentially do that with something like the Intel gain, for instance, where the one problem with it is like we don't have enough information on how this works. So maybe there's something that's really integral to deciding how you want to use your intel that you can't really communicate in a moment to a player. So you need like the menu in order to communicate that more in-depth information. But if it's just a matter of I click on square and I unveil square, then you could have that be integrated into gameplay where you just like, while you're in the middle of the heist, you know, hitting a certain lever or killing a certain monster gives you the intel and uncovers the square. Then you don't have to menu it.
With your UI concerns, Nugi, are you worried about like viewing your different hirelings' gear? Like, because when they showed it, right, is there going to be a screen where you could view all 12 minions' gear at the same time, where you have to go and check each hireling's gear individually every single time you get a drop?
Yeah, I mean,
Right? We can
I
think about
I
that,
haven't
right?
thought about that yet, but
That's
sure.
what I
I
was
mean,
thinking about. Like,
Now I'm worried.
how are you going to be able to dictate where your gear upgrades go on your rogues? Are you
That was
you're gonna have to go
yeah.
through all people every single time and look through each
I mean,
four
it's a
gear
small
slots.
mini game, you know, in the game that you don't want to have to be something that you have to tinker to.
I can see people being overwhelmed by that if that's
Yeah.
where your concerns lie.
Yeah,
Sure,
when
I can
Raiz
see
was
that.
talking about that earlier, the other thing that I was thinking could be annoying in the case that you do want to move gear around, even if you know exactly what it is. That was a weird suction noise. You'll most likely be not able to have two different rogue inventories up at once. So it won't be a case of dragging from one inventory to the other. It'll be open up big guy inventory, drag from his to yours, open up little guy, swap the gear, then put the gear back onto the big guy. So hopefully we don't have to like run up to each of them to do it. Hopefully there is one central place that you can access them all at once. Right. If it's a case of if it's a big harbor and you've got to walk up to each one individually, that'd be so much worse. Can you imagine?
I feel like they have to have an armory or something where you have like a centralized. This is my gear. These are my mercenaries, and I can just like.
That would be really nice.
The Diablo 2 experience, baby.
Yeah.
And then sometimes,
sometimes
you're gonna accidentally hire the wrong guy, and it's gonna delete the other guy's gear, and that's not gonna happen. But it would be sick. The true Diablo 2 experience.
You know, like, because they've always had this idea, like, oh, we really wanted for you to like repair your gear or where you sell, or you know, make the action matter. You know, from going to the NPC. They've talked about that before when they want to have that experience. We don't. Do you want to clutter us with more of this, you know, intermediate stuff that isn't actually playing the game?
Potential.
But it makes the mercenaries tangible.
Potential
very
fix.
important.
But just putting on the gear makes it tangible. That in itself.
I know, I'm being sarcastic.
I know. I'm just,
fuck that shit.
You know, but there's always someone that will like.
Potential fix.
Tedious actions like that. Tedious actions like that don't really increase your enjoyment for the game. It does the quite opposite. It makes you probably not want to play anymore. Like, why am I just micromanaging all my mercenaries' gear while I could just be killing stuff and getting more loot?
Well, please, Tarke, go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts.
Potential fix, and we don't know it might work like this, is it could be a Diablo 3 style system where if you've got the Barbarian Rogue with you, while he's with you, only Barbarian Rogue loot drops. That could be a very easy fix. Because we pick which rogue is with us, so it could just be a case of you only get loot associated to who's in your party. So that would be very easy to manage.
See, that's the thing too, that I think there's 13 of them.
Yeah.
I don't think you're actually, like, you're probably going to pick like 3 of your main dudes, considering it's 3 for the Grand Heist. And like, you're just always going to use them.
I think they said there were 9 skills according to the FAQ. There are 13, and there's 9
Each
skills.
one of them has 3, or each one of... I think it's 3, and they have a 4th slot, but I don't know what the 4th slot does. Maybe if you level them high enough, you get like extra slots. But I saw 4 skill slots. So technically, if it's 9 abilities, and you have 3 dudes, then that's 9 that you're needing to level. So it would be enough to cover.
They do have a strength in a particular skill, though. Like, they have a penchant for a certain skill. So that might mean that, you know, if you're doing a really important heist or something, you want to bring the guy who's very good at the door.
Yeah.
What I meant, though, I think I confused Charles, but I know it's 3 per wing, and but there are 9 different skill groups per se, so we don't actually know if you can use the same rogue layout per wing, do we? Do you have to use a completely different setup for each individual wing? Because if you can use the same group, then you can cover your bases quite well that you could ignore some.
I would imagine so, because otherwise it's too much micromanagement.
Yeah.
It's already a lot.
We need to phone a friend of Chris Wilson real quick. I feel like he can see his questions pretty good.
I feel like he partially answered that. I mean, again, it'll surely boil down to what Octavian said, where it is like there will be a degree of min-maxing, and it would suck for the player to be like, yeah, I can't be fucked with it. I'll just go with the worst one because it's just too much micromanagement otherwise. But I mean, if that's the case, then that's the case, you know?
Do you want to know what the potential worst thing they could do is? And this would be really annoying. So different rogues have different animations for the tasks they do. Like we saw one which like backflipped out of a wall looking really cool, then sneaks up and slits the throat. That was the 8-second animation. Whereas the big guy just like rams through the door. If they made the best person for each task have the longest animation for that task. So you're like, okay, do I pick the person who's the best, but it will be slightly longer each time round? Or do I take this person who's worse at the mechanic, but has got better animations?
Wait, actually, what does it actually do? Like, if there's a guy who's specialized in lockpicking, because they do have that main ability.
Yeah.
What does it actually do? Because you don't get alarm levels out of it. Does it speed it up, or?
Well, there'll be certain doors that have to be picked, and like we saw the guy with the blowtorch who could burn through the pipes. So I'm guessing it's like if we need to go through pipes, you need someone who can blowtorch. And
Right, but like a guy can have the main ability, and then he also can have the blowtorching as like a side ability, no? Because again, they have multiple.
Yeah, but then if you're in a very high level height, I mean Ziggy will correct me in a second, but if you've got very high level height, you need the high level dude, right?
Yeah, apparently there's like a maximum level that they can achieve for their sub skills as compared to their main skills. So they'll always like be able to reach a higher lockpicking level than the person who's lockpicking is their like third ability.
Then we're fucked. You have to use all 13. Goodbye.
Maybe for like Grand Heist or something, maybe.
What the rogues remind me a lot of was you guys play World of Warcraft? Garrisons. You guys remember Garrison Mission Manager? You had to like optimize where each hireling went and for each room. I'm pretty sure that's what this league's going to be like, right? You're going to have to micromanage what skills. No, I don't think we're going to get an add-on Path of Exile. I think we're going to have to choose very precisely which minions we use for which room.
Can you imagine if that was GGG's fix? Like 2 weeks in, we just added the add-on. Just press the button; it does it for you.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be add-on. I think you're going to have to be picking very wisely on what you're going to pick on each expedition.
They could have like an auto pick your team or something. I don't know. Like an auto sort your team for the Grand Heist, but I don't see how that would make sense. Like the highest probability of success.
Yeah. There's like some website that someone's going to design, and you're going to input what is in each one of your heists, and you're going to click a button, and it's going to optimize your minions for you.
Okay.
Spreadsheets on Reddit.
No. It's easy fix. It's easy fix. If you at Raiz QT and you tell him what your heist is, he will tell you exactly which heist members to take with you. Just if you ever have a question, just load up twitch.tv/RaizQT and just say, yo, Raiz, I've got this grand heist. My big dude is level 5. My sneaky woman is level 11. Who do I bring on this mission?
And apparently price checks as well.
And what gear they have.
I can make you guys a lot of money, you know? This podcast is proof definitely I can make you guys a lot of money, you know?
Actually, I do Patreon build reviews. I'll add a new tier. For $50 dues, I'll do heist reviews. Send me a screenshot, I'll send it back, dude. I'll tell you a setup.
I hate how we have to like it's probably gonna end up being like such a minimal amount of like anything, and just the tiniest bit of min-maxing, and it'll be not impactful, and if it will be changed so quickly. But yet like we get so hung up over these tiny fucking stupid details.
Like, no, I feel like we had some good concerns last time with Harvest as well. I don't know.
It's true.
I'll quickly just read you. There's some new gems.
They weren't going to do the water crafting, and then we all talked about it a bunch. Yeah. Everyone talked about it, and then they had a water crafting time for launch.
I completely forgot that they even considered that. The water crafting. Oh my god.
Imagine if it took them 2 weeks to add it, those first 2 weeks with no hoarder crafting.
It was so insane to me that I started second doubting myself. I was like, maybe it's not really that big of a deal. Like, am I crazy about this? Like, I don't know. And now thinking about Harvest without hoarder crafting, it's just insane. Fucking ridiculous.
It's worth talking about, even though a lot of this stuff seems really trivial for Heist. Like, I think, as far as I can tell from Heist, most of this stuff seems like things that could easily be fixed in 1 or 2 days if it's like, oh, this stuff takes a little bit too long, or this particular element of the UI is a little bit annoying. It would take a couple of days to fix. I can't see anything that would be like complete league destroyers or any like real fundamental problems here.
I think it might make some animators sad, or whoever like made the you know, the big animations for the guys like flying through the red lights and everything. You know, if they have to do it faster, it's like
they add a skip button or like a speed up times 8. It's like guys like spinning through lasers, you know, dodging all the shit. It's just like times 8 that shit.
Right,
Get that
it's
out of
much
gear.
simpler. They just remove all the lasers, so you just got to step over one. It's like, okay, I mean, it's worth mentioning, like, the people at GG, they're far more intelligent than any of we are. I'm sure there's no one there like, oh my god, we haven't thought of any of these things. Quick, we've got to scrap the entire league. Like, they'll work it out. It'll be fine. So the 2 new gems that were posted on Twitter. BV, 1% of damage leached as life as 10% quality. So 20% would be 2% leached as life.
Ooh,
which is pretty powerful. It's pretty good.
Physical spell leech.
Spell leech is very good.
Very good.
Oh, that's huge.
Fast approach. This is a 20 quality fast approach. Projectiles have 60% chance to return to you from final target.
Hey, an actual way to get that.
Final target.
Yeah, final target.
Oh. Wow. Yeah.
Oh.
That leech mechanic's so strong though.
Special
Juggernaut
BB,
Blade
which is a good
Vortex.
skill.
Build meta.
It's weird that
Those
they
are
would
both
add
big.
the leech to a physical ability out of everything. I mean, I guess there's not really that many ways of accomplishing it, which is why it's so massive.
I'm trying to think of the BV builds that are like in a good spot right now that benefit from this the most. The Chieftain build, I think you already go for the leech node and you're converting it back. Poison BV doesn't have that much of an upfront hit, so you're not going to get a huge benefit. It might be a little bit of recovery, but it's not
Assassin
going to be
BV.
You can easily build it so it has enough.
Yeah, probably I'm underestimating it for Poison BV. There's a Archmage Hierophant, like Lightning BV that's kind of interesting. That would really like that, I think. What does quality of BV usually give? Is it super impactful?
I mean, Assassin.
AoE.
AoE.
I think it's just 10 AoE at 20.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that big a deal to lose. I think I would take the leech on a good number of builds a lot of the time.
Explode Chest just carries you with Blade Vortex normally.
I mean, there's like a ton, like anything non-chieftain with BV can benefit from this basically, and make your life so much easier.
I was maybe underestimating the hit damage from the poison builds and how much
they have enough, and they hit fast, so it's like and you're full leeching.
True.
Those are good examples.
Before we go full skill gems, did anyone have any concerns that hasn't been raised? Then we'll talk about it. Should we just go full skill gem chat?
I think we covered all the concerns just sporadically.
The rewards are gonna suck and they're gonna change them.
When has a league ever been over rewarding at the start and hasn't had it been buffed? Pretty much never. No, Legion got buffed, didn't it?
Legion was great. Didn't they just make it easier? But it was really good at the start.
They can't nerf rewards from the start. Like,
yeah, it's kind of a tough thing to do.
they can't do that, so they always have to err. If they're going to err in any direction, it has to be on the side of caution.
Delve was really good at the start. Nearly always what happens is like the mechanic's really rewarding if you know what you're doing, but people don't, so they buff it for people who don't know what they're doing because they're stupid. No offense to any stupid people in the chat, and then it becomes over rewarding. Like we saw that with Delirium. Delirium was good if you were doing it right. And then
what if they're not stupid? What if they're just not hyper invested in the game? They don't have that much time to play.
Then that's fine. But generally they're not the people complaining about it, like sending death threats.
This is the elitist podcast.
I'm saying not everyone has 12 hours a day to watch a stream, read Reddit, track Twitter.
Well, obviously,
they better play 12 hours, man.
No, obviously, DatModz, I completely agree with you. But I would generally say the people only playing like a couple of hours a week, not like interacting with any of the online content, aren't the same people complaining online. Generally, the people who are like on Reddit bitching that stuff isn't rewarding enough are also intelligent enough to read the good stuff on Reddit or on YouTube guides or whatever. Like, If you've got the time to complain on a forum that something isn't raw enough, you've got enough time to read on that same forum.
It's the
know.
classic Reddit
Okay.
thinks it's not the 1%.
This is the problem with Path of Exile, though, is sometimes when you're trying to find the solution to your problem, there's no one place for it. Most of the answers aren't in game. They're spread about 20 different websites in the game. Like, you really have to look for a solution to your problem if you're a new player. Like, they don't know about the 20 websites. If you go into Google search and you type fossils, Path of Exile, it's not going to pull up the newest fossil crafting website, or Path of Exile pulled up old data shit because how the algorithm works. The problem is, you need to centralize information.
I mean, I would agree with that, but I'd also say with Path of Exile, the main issue people have is they don't know what the problem they're trying to solve is, as well. Like, it's hard enough to find the info, but it's the thing of, like, even if the info was all just in one place, you need to know what it is you're struggling with to search for that. So
they don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can be pretty easy to, like, I don't know, if you have a book with the instructions as to what you need to do, you can say that's really easy to read, but if the person doesn't know how to turn on a light to be able to read it, then it's not very helpful, Like, there's another step that needs to be done to be able to get to.
So just to clarify, if anyone thought that I was insulting anyone's intelligence, Octavian just said, if you're not good at PoE, you're too dumb for light switches.
It was an analogy. It wasn't meant to be
no,
literal.
we don't believe in analogies. We only believe in pure facts.
Hey, you know how at the beginning of the podcast I talked about hardcore elitists being the very vocal minority? I'm just gonna leave it at that.
These are the two people who play more softcore than just saying.
I play softcore. I'm toxic. I play softcore. It's a softcore problem. Taven plays softcore as well. He plays both. I mean, I play both. I play more softcore than hardcore.
Yeah. Set match.
Well, you don't even play trade league though. You play like your own private leagues, Tarke, don't you?
Private leagues and SSF. Yeah.
Why don't you play the normal leagues?
The last time I played, I used to only play trade when I played hardcore, because items left the economy. I found that fun, but the softcore economy is boring to me because it just gets like crazy inflated.
Besides, our private league was bigger than hardcore trade anyway.
Yeah.
It was.
How dare you guys? Unbelievable.
I mean, it was true. Yeah.
It might be.
Hardcore trade?
I wouldn't know. No, I haven't played in 2 leagues. I don't think. SSF is good.
You guys are hurting Uber Dan's feelings right now, by the way. I'm pretty sure he's watching this. I probably should apologize to Uber Dan on hardcore
But like the
trade.
thing is like I will just say this: like people meme about like, oh, you only play private leagues. Like the last trade league we did had 2,000 people in it, and it was basically trade with no bots. Trade with no bots and exalts at like
good, right?
40k, like 40 chaos for an exalt. That's fun because you get to use the currency. You have no negative trade interactions. It's really pleasant experience. You're like, well, come play a real league
crazy how different the ratios were.
Yeah, come
like,
play a real league where you're paying like 200 chaos for an exalted orb, and every trade you try to do is AFK. Like, you're not having fun unless you're getting like AFK whispers 24/7. It's like.
Hardcore trade is, I mean, it's a little bit slow, but it doesn't run into those problems.
Hardcore trade's
every
great.
person I whispered responds, basically. Like, every time.
Hardcore trade is my, hardcore trade was my favorite thing about playing hardcore. Yeah.
You just
have to respond. I'll never get another whisper, so there's the one chance.
Yeah. Oh, man, I had, I was actually in trade chat for most of this league. Like, I literally was in trade chat using it because it was like the best place in hardcore trade to get the crafts for harvest, because it's not like anybody puts them on the trade Discord, because nobody they didn't even have a place for that until like the last month of the league on the harvest trading Discord. But yeah, I remember distinctly there was one guy who was looking for ad remove caster, and he was so excited that I had like 12 of them stockpiled because I wasn't doing any caster stuff. I was playing mostly melee. He was so goddamn hyped.
Did he get his role?
No.
That's a return customer right now. I will just say quickly on the whole hardcore thing, the most welcoming community I've ever had outside of private leagues has been the hardcore community. They generally are very like, if you're new, they're like, oh, it's difficult, we will help you try and learn it.
These days especially, yeah. It was different in the early days of PoE.
Yeah, it was
very
very,
Very
bad.
different.
It was very, very bad back in the day. But
Yeah, I
These days
remember-
it's like
Nugiyen invited me to like my first map when I was playing hardcore Path of Exile. And it was him and Martin Creek, and there's a Spark Mob, and they're both playing Spectral Throw. And I was playing a melee guy. They're like, yeah, Mod, just go run up and go attack that guy. I was playing Dual Strike with my 2 swords. I'm just like clink, clink, clink. And they just start throwing their things, and my character almost gets instantly deleted by the spark effects. And they thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
It was
I'm
the
just there
funniest
with
thing in
my-
the world.
That seems perfectly fine to me.
And Bill just clicking at this mob.
Up to hardcore.
Yeah.
We should have ripped. Would have been a better story. Come on,
Oh,
man.
dude, I was so close. I literally had like 1%
Okay, I have a
health
story
left.
for Okay, you remember Martin Creek?
Mhm.
So
remember.
Martin Creek was the immortal ranger from back in beta, and you know him, Mod. So so he came back and he wanted to see the new Act 4, and I took him through the mines, and then we stumbled across the light guy, the light bearer guy who used to be in the middle of the path. And I told him it's very important to hug him when he dies, because otherwise you're gonna die when he's, you know. And so we killed him. I ran away. He explodes. He panics. I was like, ah, I'm dying. And then 10 seconds later, he died at the end of the ignite. You killed me.
If you
Sounds good.
YouTube OOS PoE Bandit PK, it's actually one of the Reddit mods. He's a friend of
Yes.
mine. He's great. He's really good fun. It's one of the best videos I've ever seen. So you used to be able to, like, if someone did like kill or like defend Bandit, you would PK each other. And Oak used to be really scary back in the day, like super scary. And it's just a compilation of him killing like level 60, level 70 characters.
He killed so many people.
Because also back then, like, a lot of people would like skip like Oak, like, I'll come back to that later. And they'd grind in like Fell Shrine for like 10, 15 levels or some stuff.
Sure. My favorite PKs were the Promenade boss, the old one with lightning thorns.
Oh,
And
yes.
every single one of the Crip fanboys playing freeze poles thinking they're immortal. And I just like bring him into the map and be like, why don't you attack that mob? And they'd attack it once, hit it 7 times, and instantly blow up. And I'm just like, oh, I wonder what happened. Where'd your character go, buddy? Nice film's card, lol.
There was a guy.
Yeah, I only
who,
did that to one guy.
There was a guy. You'll remember this, Raiz and Niggy. This was a while ago. I can't remember what league. It was around Perennis or something. But he was trying to grow his channel, and he was trying to PK every single streamer. He was like inviting people into detonate dead boxes. Like the pool being on top of the detonate dead box, you take like a step and then it would explode.
Oh.
I can't remember what league that was, but he did that to like everyone over the space of like 3 days. I think it was Perendus. He was like, I've got a headhunter or something on the thing. Do you want to buy it? And you're like, oh yeah, sure, cool. But then you'd step off like,
I think there was like a petition to get that guy banned because he was doing that to players and like posting it on the forums and people wanted him banned.
Pretty scummy.
Funny though.
I mean, you could offer something that's too good to be true. Like, maybe think a little. Maybe.
Dude, it's like those Perandus coin traders that steal your headhunter.
Yep. I mean, that's pure rudeness. It's funny until it happens to me.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is though, is that, I mean, in the imaginary world where GGG has the monitor watching all the players, you know they're all just tuned into that stuff, just laughing their asses off, because that's the funny shit, right?
I think like the trades and like actually scamming people out of the trades and stealing and stuff. I think that's kind of scummy. But if you step into someone else's map and you die, that's your fault. That's kind of my hardcore mentality. It's like if you went there and he set that up and it's like, oops, you died. Well, maybe so you go. I don't know.
I mean, I think everyone's got that super vivid memory of getting scammed in like RuneScape or Diablo or something. Like some of my fondest memories of being scammed in games, because that sticks with you. The first time you ever get scammed in like D2 or RuneScape, whatever your first big internet scam was, that's like ingrained in your head. You won't forget that one anytime soon.
Yo, I've never been scammed like that. I still have my innocence. I still have faith in
Really?
humanity and hope and positivity.
Hear
No one's
that,
ruined
chat?
me yet.
Ziggy's
That's
the
why I'm such a
target.
happy person.
Get him in Heist.
Everyone's always like, "Oh, Ziggy's so saccharine. He's so sweet and happy all the time." It's like that's why I never got scammed. A
Wait
guy
until
said he
it
was going to trim
happens
my
to you.
armor. Gave him my armor. Came back trimmed.
It's going to resonate with you forever and change you as a person. You'll never be able to trust anyone ever again.
We should play some more, sis. Or no, Ziggy.
I still remember dropping my Enigma on the ground because the guy was like, "Oh, drop it on the ground. I want to see if it's duped." When I was trading it, fucker snatched it from across the screen because he had some sort of hack. I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm quitting Diablo 2 for 4 years," and I did.
Yeah, it was the old drop trick with the
Yeah, drop it on the ground.
Yeah,
That's why you're so grumpy nowadays.
yeah. You could do
I knew it.
you could do the encampment teleport hack.
Yep,
Yeah,
Mm.
I get scammed that way too.
I actually cried. It was not a good time.
I still think one of my favorite things in any game, and I won't even say just like, hey, mate, just go into that building and take the wine off the table for me real quick. People who know will know.
Wait, wine of the table.
RuneScape, dude.
It's yeah.
Oh,
I didn't
I
even
never-
play the game when I got that one.
So
Hmm.
good.
Barely played
Wine
the
of
game.
Zamarok. There's you just see a random, oh, it's building with a bunch of monks in it. They seem cool. Oh, there's a special wine. What does that do? You pick up all the monks just aggro you. You stand on the door and you spam close the door so they can't escape. You would just see I remember having to see, but like you just see a bunch of random hide up characters just waiting outside this building. Like, why are they just? I'm like, oh yeah, it's like you can only pick up once. It's super powerful. If you drink it, you can be like me. Like, oh, I want to be like this guy. This guy's got really good gear. And then he just like spam closes the door in your face and then loots your corpse. You're like, oh okay, I can see how he got that good gear now. Nice. Yeah. That was heist related. This is to do with heisting things. So
Nice tangent.
we haven't seen many replica items, and we haven't seen like many of the alternate gem stuff. If you guys had to pick like a replica unique that you'd like to see, or like maybe a gem quality you'd like to see, is there
Toxic
any
Rift.
What was that, sorry?
But it has full conversion. Whoa!
What?
Whoa, that's too out.
Dude. If it just
But better.
on lightning, then there is like fire does chaos to fire. So if you have a fire one, then you immediately can convert everything, right?
Oh,
I
that's
think
also,
you can, yeah.
that's also one thing. Just quickly, can I say, for the people making the trash like replica unique posts on Reddit, the idea is it's the same unique with one thing slightly different. I've seen people like, oh, do you want to see my replica this? And it's just a completely different fucking item. Like, there's nothing remotely similar to the first one. You know, it's like an example that you would see would be like Queen of the Forest, but it's armor instead. Like, that's an item. Or like Stormfire, but now lightning can ignite. Oh, wait, no. Stormfire, but chaos can ignite. You know.
Don't worry,
know,
Tarke. I haven't seen Stormfire in a long time as well.
Raz doesn't know what it looks like. I don't know. The headhunter that steals affixes off white mobs seemed pretty cool.
What do you guys think the limitations are here? Because I was surprised to see that there was a version of Aziri's Acuity, was it? The gloves that had been
Yes.
tampered this way? I didn't think boss drops would be in that pool.
Hmm. That makes sense though. If you're gonna make like a forgery, you're gonna think of like some like famous item, like
yeah.
famous artist forgery, right? So
But-
it kind of fits.
It makes me think, is there room for this to also work on like Fated uniques or Temple upgrade uniques or Breach Lord upgrade uniques, like some of these other things that have a specific upgrade path?
I mean, there's room for
Yeah,
it.
they've
The
got full
question is what
control.
they did it.
Because I want Architect's Hand, but attack speed applies instead of cast speed applies.
Oh, that's dangerous.
I want Architect's hands that actually fucking drop. That's what I want.
Unique that I would want the most of the Bringer of Rain, but you can't equip a chess piece.
Fine.
or just change like the gems that gives you the actual useful one instead of like faster attacks and blind.
Listen, we should stick to podcasting. What the fuck? I want a Cloak of Defiance, but 100% Mind Over Matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We suck.
Wait, DatModz, how about this? How about this? A face breaker that lets you use weapons.
Oh. Yeah,
Like
that's pretty good.
wrappings, but it drops all the time instead of every now and then. Dude, come on. You gotta be more creative. To be fair, I am kind of surprised that it's only 100 items. It's like with the 900 gems, I was like, ooh, wonder how many they're gonna do here. You know, they've been doing the whole 300, 500. 100 is a lot.
But they're also doing the 900 gems, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like... So it's only 100 with 900 gems. So...
Hey,
It's a lot easier though.
they set up the bar pretty high for me.
I want some of the older uniques that were really powerful back in the day that don't get played very much anymore to get maybe a facelift with this. You know, something like Cospri's Will, the Assassin's Guard chess piece, the curses can apply to hexproof. I don't know. Things like
What
that.
happened?
Bringer Rain, yeah. I agree with
Bringer
that.
Rain, that's a good one.
What happens if the replica unique ends up being way more popular than the normal version of the unique? Like,
Oh,
how do
that'll
you guys
happen
think
for sure.
happens then?
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, what happens if the knockoff brand becomes more popular than like Prada? I don't know.
Yeah.
That'll happen in real life ever.
Like 100% that will happen with some of them, because it's like you'll have the same unique modifiers, right? But it'll be applied from something else, and it's a completely unexplored territory. If you change anything from lightning to fire, all of a sudden everything lightning in the game or fire in the game will now apply, when it didn't before, and you can't really predict all the different combinations that we have.
Crown of Eyes, but attack damage applies to spell damage. Ooh.
That's what it is now.
No, that's spell damage applies to attack damage. Reverse. Right? Or did I have
No.
it back? No, Crown of Eyes increased production.
Wait, you just found out there's like a sick item for you.
No.
Wait, am I crazy?
150% of their value.
Wait, I can't remember anymore.
Reverse
It's
them.
been too long.
I
Oh,
might
no,
have
you're right.
backwards.
Yeah, you're
He's
right. You're right. It's been too long. Crown of Eyes meta. It's only been like 6 years. It's okay.
But you saw the iron, like the bow, right? With strength instead of dex.
Yeah.
Mhm.
With strength being so powerful, and now iron grip all of a sudden is like a viable option.
Yeah,
That's
but
like
have you used Shrapnel Ballista before?
It does a lot of damage. It's got no
I'm
AoE though.
saying the question was like if it's gonna make the unique better than the other unique,
Yeah.
not whether or not the build is good.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
The endurance charge vols, whatever it is I
Yeah.
think better. That one's definitely better. It's like 2% degen is nothing to trade off for really, really good endurance charge generation.
Really good for
Oh, the
Enemy Guardian,
ambush.
that one.
yeah.
Ambush, that's the one, not vols, sorry.
I mean,
Yeah.
overall, the most of these have like a really good replica.
Did that
They used
one,
so far.
did that one go out on Twitter? I didn't see the Vols one.
Yeah, I think all the replicas have been good so far that we've seen. Like, it's like at least an interesting, different way of building a similar character like the Iron Commander is like, this is a different way of doing it. Or they've been like, actually something pretty cool, interesting, or potentially even strong.
I mean, the Bitter Dream looks interesting, but then when I started thinking about it, I couldn't come up with like a real build.
Well, the whole thing with the Bitter Dream was that you would vendor it for Elemental Pen as the gem.
Oh,
Because that would be
Mm.
powerful. An all
Yeah.
Elemental Pen gem would be sick.
Wait, what?
There's
Oh,
no
did you not
way.
see that? So they
yeah, that makes-
showed
yeah.
the replica Bitter Dream, and instead of it having Cold Pen, it's Elemental Pen. And then someone said,
Wait, but it will actually vendor for the gem.
well, someone said, can I vendor this? And Bex is like, you'll just have to wait and see. Which is, yeah.
I made this. What?
I really like.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, she said you'll have to wait and see?
Yeah. I would like try it on the forehead.
And she's like, they're going to be so surprised when nothing happens.
It just says, fuck you. Like, oh, okay. Thanks, Bex.
I like this is not really a balance point, but I really like the flavor text they're going with on a bunch of these replica ones. I think in general the flavor of Heist is looking really like on point, chef's kiss kind of flavor. Also, specifically the Bitter Dream one, it says attempt number 2520, So that assumes there's another 2,519 Bitter Dreams out there. I want to see them all, please.
Wait, you think so? That is just like random?
No,
Well, if you
not.
read some of the other flavor text, it's like some of the things that went wrong in their experiments. You have to think that probably maybe you don't want to see some of them. It's like
now I really want to see
this, and they've been screaming for months.
Yeah, and part of the flavor of the Bitter Dream one is in the attempt. It says, been slaving away at this one for longer than I can remember. Convinced this assignment is a retribution from my superior.
You think there'll be a like an alternate Belt of Deceiver for casters instead of melee users?
That gives unnerve.
What, give unnerve?
Yeah.
Could work, yeah. It'd be a bit...
Yeah.
That would be kind of funny. It would be kind of like coming full circle in Belt of the Deceiver, because Intimidate used to just be a generic more multi to any hit damage that they were taking. Maybe not even just hits. I think it was damage in general. So like now we're going back to the time when anybody could use a Belt of the Deceiver.
Yeah.
If that happens.
Yeah, so yeah, you can just have a nerve on instead of Intimidate. And then yeah, you could have like Energy Shield on it or something instead of life. Yeah, maybe something like that.
Leave life. Blue life bad, red life good.
Yeah.
Do you like Energy Shield builds, Octavian?
Oh no, I hate them. I've played like 5 or 6 and I've hated every single one, and I don't play them anymore.
Wait, why do you dislike them?
I don't know. I just know that I keep trying to play Energy Shield builds and I keep not liking them, so I've stopped.
I had that experience until I played one where it clicked, and I figured out like the things that you need to check in order for it to. There's like a few checkboxes you got to hit.
I've played effective ones. Like I've played them through to like level 92, 93 or something in the past, and I've done end game content with them, and they've handled it well. I just wasn't having fun.
I feel like it's a playstyle shift. I mean, at least I had that, because I had like a solid year of only playing ES builds, and then I really struggled going back to life. And then I haven't played ES for a while, so I'll probably have the same thing going backwards. But yeah. I had a solid year of just like copying waggle builds, which just meant every build was an occultist, when occultist was like top dog. That's one thing I'm really hoping we see some occultist changes, because they're doing a cursory work. I'm really hoping we see some changes to occultist. Because there's been loads of times I've wanted to play an occultist, but I'm not playing a cold or a chaos build, and it's just like, what's the point? You know what I mean? It feels so...
Yeah, but Lynn, Malediction is like the one good thing about occultist now, so it's like, damn it.
Wow.
What do you do about that?
This league as well, maybe you'll play it for curses.
Yeah, it would be cool.
I was really excited about the curse stuff. I hope there's more curse stuff coming, because I've been wanting to make a build around the Wedre chess piece for a while. So far, what they've revealed doesn't really help that at all, because it's all about self-casting curses, and I don't think it's technically self-casting to place the curse effigy.
Yep. I don't think it would work.
I like offensive.
Forget a Scion buff?
What,
Scion?
sorry?
Yeah.
A what?
Excuse me?
What's that?
What's a Scion?
Huh?
What's Scion?
Guys?
Sorry, is this a joke? You're too softcore to understand? What's a Scion?
Yeah, Scions.
Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck?
You play softcore.
I know, that's why it's funny.
Was that what you expected, Mods, when you came on?
Oh.
To be treated this way?
Yeah.
That actually is better than I expect to be treated, to be honest.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
funny.
What sort of expectation? What sort of podcast did you have? My God.
Well, I don't know, dude. I was playing PUD with Nugiyen the other day, and he just kept on trying to kill me in Chaos Sanctuary, literally every single portal entrance.
What?
Yeah.
You'll have to be more specific.
Oh,
Nugiyen
right.
a lot.
Yeah, we're farming. Yeah, we're playing Path of Diablo, Act 4
What?
Chaos Sanctuary runs. And you know how you have to go to like each different corner, right? There's 3 different corners. You have to open up the portals, the elite mobs spawn. And every single time he would rush there and I'm run up, I was playing a pet build and I didn't have teleport yet. And he would open up the mobs on top of me every time.
What?
I'm pretty sure it was 100% intentional.
No.
He didn't kill me though.
You're a big boy. You know how to handle yourself.
Yeah, I know he's lying. Someone like offered him 100 gifted subs if he killed me. I know what he was trying to do.
Trying to think of more unique items, but My dome is too small.
Mm.
I don't know, the fire one, the ring, pyre.
Yeah,
Good.
Conversions
all
are
the
kind of a trick.
It's like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
From Zoro.
A Salem, but it's melee instead of bows. You charge up a melee attack.
That'd be cool.
That
Snipe
sounds really OP.
melee archer.
That sounds kind of disgusting with all the slam stuff.
It's
Like,
like,
that sounds
could charge up your earthquake, could charge up your puncture for a boss.
Totally fine. That would be fine.
That'd be good.
How sick would that be? It'd be so fun.
I've
Oh, they
always
should do the Gruthgul one where you can't use spells and then you can't do attacks and it gives you something else.
That'd be good.
I don't know if that's even
I feel
good.
like it's way easier to use.
Yeah.
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 That's kind of I would like that.
Yeah.
Trash right
Give up
now.
like
Nice.
yeah, it's kind of just animate guardian fodder at the moment.
I've always been surprised since you said charge up attacks that we've never had like a charge up cleave, because that seems like such an obvious skill, just like a little like. Because like a lot of games have that, like a cleave style attack, but it's got like a bit of a slow swing on it. Can you imagine if
Blade
it's like
flurry.
no, because Blade Flurry is just like it's like whatever, who cares, right? But like a really like you really pull him back on the swing, and then like if it was like imagine sweep but with like way bigger AoE and it had like a bit of a charge, that would feel good.
Like a charged dash.
Charge sweep. Combine them.
Okay, Raiz, close your eyes. Imagine you've got a katana and you're going full weeb, and you're just like holding, and then it makes like a noise, and it's like that'd be cool, right? Maybe like
Nah, still melee.
small?
Don't like it. Yeah.
How well would a charge melee attack really work in Path of Exile? You charge up your attack, and then when you're charging up, something will just one-shot you while you're standing still.
I mean, have you tried charge dash?
Charge dash, blade flurry.
Yeah, charge dash felt terrible.
What a weird skill.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have to do a big one. I think there's like a slight just like pull back and then cleave. That would feel good. I'd play it. The main reason I don't play melee much, I find the skills boring, but I'd play that. If someone makes that, I'll play it. That's the
That
challenge.
sounds cool. I'm surprised that they haven't explored that idea, honestly.
See, I told you, chat. There's the weeb thing. That's what got him, and he's like, "Oh, it's been pretty good."
I looked it up. There's one person on hardcore playing charge dash.
Sick.
He's level 19.
Yeah, fucking level 88 raider, 4,000 health. My God, this guy's a god.
Can we just take a
Holy
moment to
shit.
appreciate
This is
that a level
15th character
88
this week.
character is showing up on Pee-wee Ninja this late into the league?
Holy crap.
That's crazy.
Level 88's impressive given
I mean, true.
given the 4K being charged up. Damn.
Okay. I feel like we've talked around the houses a little bit. Is there anything that anyone wanted to talk about today that we haven't discussed?
Not really. There is a Reddit AMA with Chris, though, in a couple minutes.
Oh.
I mean, we could, in theory, delay this podcast indefinitely to go out through the duration of the AMA, but that might be asking a bit much. I don't know.
Another 4 hours.
Actually, no, I think I might have just started, yeah. Maybe actually some of the questions that we had regarding league mechanics, like some of our worries, might get answered.
Would it be
That's always the way.
obnoxious if we just said question, then linked the entire VOD?
Real quick.
1 second, Chris.
Not to take up too much of your time.
Just real quick.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, well, in that case, DatModz, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on, and I hope that you would come back one day if we're not too toxic.
No, I'm probably not going to come back. But no, we had a good time this time, and I'll remember it probably for the rest of my life.
Kind of like that first time you got
Oh.
scammed, right?
Yeah.
Memorable is good to aim for.
No, I'm joking. If you guys would have me back, I'd be delighted to come back and talk some more with you guys. I'll even bring some snacks and shit.
I'll have some of the snacks.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'd like to thank everyone for coming on. And the next episode will be at some point. We try and maybe work out a dev episode. But yeah, follow people where they want to be followed. DatModz, where do you want people to follow you?
Twitch, DatModz, I guess. If you want to. You don't have to, though. You have freedom of choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
And don't
That's pretty
forget
much
the BK race this weekend, chat. All right. See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Was that one okay, Raiz? Raiz likes to evaluate how I end my episodes. How was that?
What? When you told me to close my eyes earlier, I already fell asleep, to be honest.